2-0 in the 7th. The AL West leading Angels get a bang from Garrett Anderson. A 5-run 7th leads to a 7-3 win. Last night, again the Angels come from behind in the 7th. 4 runs against a beleaguered bullpen that makes Joe Torre cringe. A 1-run lead in the 9th. Troy Percival saves the day with the bases loaded. Anaheim wins it 7-6. This afternoon, a new Angel in the outfield. Reggie Williams hits his first Major League home run. 3 for 3 for the Angels in New York, this time 6-4. And thanks to the win this afternoon, the Angels now lead the Texas Rangers by 4 games in the AL West with just more than a month to go in the season. Hello once again, everybody. I'm Chris Berman along with Ray Knight, and good to see you. So glad you could join us here on Wednesday Night Baseball. Oh, we've had some great stories this season. Obviously, Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa and the Yankees may be setting a new record for wins all time. But what about the story, Ray, being authored by Terry Collins and the Anaheim Angels? I mean, July 31st, right? Texas trades for Todd Stottlemyre. On the left side of the infield, Clayton and Zeal. Anaheim pretty much doesn't do anything. Did you think they'd be left in the dust? Be honest.
Yes,
now.
I did. And when you think about this ball club, they're very gritty. Erstad was out. They got rid of Cecil Fielder, very popular player, and I was one of those people that predicted they would be left in the dust, but they've just shown a lot of grit and played great baseball over the last month.
Yeah, and they've taken the first 3 of this 5-game set from the New York Yankees, and look what they've done compared to Texas since that time in the month of August after a record-setting June for these Anaheim Angels. Speaking of record-setting, how about the New York Yankees? But you know what? They've lost 4 straight. Ooh. Panic in the Bronx? No, I mean, nobody can win every game. Joe Torre did have a meeting before the first game today and said that, guys, just relax a little bit. Look at what you've accomplished. And David Wells can help him relax an awful lot. After all, 16-2 this year.
Yes, and the perfect game. A man that goes out and eats innings 4 years in a row, 200 innings or more, and he wants the baseball. He's got a good fastball that he locates all over the strike zone, up and down, in and out, and then a curveball that he can throw anytime in the strike zone. But he's just a tremendous competitor. I played a lot of golf with him. I was with him in Cincinnati, and he hates to lose.
Played a lot of golf. Well, maybe he'll make the long and the short putts today. We shall see. The playoff pursuit continues here on ESPN as we steamroll towards September. Steve Sparks, a breath of fresh air for Anaheim against Mr. Perfecto, David Wells. ESPN Wednesday Night Baseball is brought to you by Holiday Inn Express, who invites you to stay smart, and by Original Coors. There's only one mile-high taste. Coors, the original.
Hi, everybody. Bill Pito in the studio as we get ready for the Angels and Yanks Game 2 of their doubleheader. In the meantime, let's take a look at the Cubs and Reds today. Sammy Sosa does it. 0 for 4 in his career against Brett Topko, but here in the top of the 3rd, there it goes. His 52nd home run of the year. A tremendous drive. Puts the Cubs up by the score of 4-1. Bottom 7, Kerry Wood, who had it going on today. Brett Boone, frozen. Reggie Sanders then steps up in the 8th. Ed Rapparonis shaken up, but would be okay. Sanders strikes out. As the Cubbies, behind Kerry Wood, beat Cincinnati by the final score of 9-2. Kerry Wood striking out 16 in 8 innings. His first win since July 31st. This reminder, the second game of our doubleheader here on ESPN. Expos and Dodgers, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. For now, let's go back to the Bronx. Chris Berman, Ray Knight on the call. The Angels and the Yanks, the second game of 2. Anaheim won game 1. Chris, take it away.
All right, Billy, and thanks for giving us what you have. We'll be checking in with you all night long. But Mark McGwire is about everything else in the wonderful world of baseball, and has been a wonderful world as of late, certainly for these Anaheim Angels. Our next lineup tonight in Game 4 of this 5-game series. Jim Edmonds leads off in center field. Norberto Martin will get the start in the second half of this doubleheader at second base. Darren Erstad, it's so young, but in so many ways the heart and soul of this team at first base. Tim Sockeye Salmon is the DH, and even though he's got a bad arch on his foot, he can only DH. He has had a hot August. Todd Green getting a start in left field tonight. Hits 5th. Garrett Anderson in right field hitting 6th. The youngster, Troy Glaus, #1 pick a year ago, hitting 7th at third base. Phil Nevin catches this evening hitting 8th. And another heart and soul of this squad, Gary, little old lady from Disarcenia, is the shortstop hitting 9th. And they will go against the man that on May 17th authored the rarest of all games. Pitched, the perfect game. 16-2, David Wells.
David Wells, fastball, curveball, straight changeup, just 25 base on balls. This year you'll see him come right at people. Has enough stuff on his fastball, 89 to 92, that he strikes out quite a few batters, 126. But he will come right at you, Chris.
So I think the way that the bullpen has gone lately, and I mean lately as in the last 4 or 5 days, not that that would change anything for David Wells and Joe Torre with their strategy, Ray, but this would be a real good time for David to go 7+ innings. Swing at the first pitch is Edmonds. Slices it a long run for Jeter, but playing left field tonight is Darryl Strawberry, and Straw makes the catch. So 1 pitch, 1 out.
Defense for the Yankees. Everybody about the same. Not blocked. Late scratch there at Bush, and Homer Bush at second base. We have center fielder, Gold Glove winner last year, Bernie Williams.
And the leading batter in the American League, Bernie Williams. Norberto Martin. Randy Velarde has just come back after really a year and a half on the DL. Velarde has been pretty much their everyday second baseman now for the Angels, but he played in the first game. Martin gets the start, give Velarde a breather, and Wells starts Martin off with a strike. Martin played some, of course, with the White Sox. He's the backup infielder here with these Anaheim Angels. As David Wells. This one will be fouled off the right side. I mean, it's been said many times with the 33 that Wells is wearing here. I mean, he did ask for number 3 when he came. I love Babe Ruth. We don't give out number 3 here anymore. It's been retired for a little bit. He said, well, how about 33? You got it.
Well, he's a big memorabilia collector. Has a lot of stuff down his home in Tampa, Florida, and he's acquired as much Babe Ruth stuff as he can. And he told me last year that he had been in contact with one of Babe Ruth's distant relatives and had acquired some pajamas that Ruth had slept in. And so he's a legitimate Babe Ruth junkie.
Those pajamas could talk.
Oh, my goodness.
0-2 still to count to Norberto Martin. Glad you could join us on the first half of our double dip. Wells working him inside, backs him off, just misses. So the count is 1-2. You know, the Angels in all 3 of these games, Ray, Monday night and Tuesday night and this afternoon, trailed. So it's not just that they came out and, let's say, Finley, who pitches tomorrow, or somebody pitched a good game. Martin reaches out, and this one will drop in front of Strawberry. Martin makes Straw make a strong throw to the cutoff man Jeter as he was got good wheels, was thinking about a double. And that's his first career hit after 16 offers for Martin against David Wells.
David Wells' curveball can get a little loopy here. It does. Stays up in the strike zone. Enables Martin to drive it to left field. But you'll see as the game goes on and he starts to get his rhythm, that curveball breaking straight down with a lot of bite. As good a left-handed curveball as there is in the major league.
That'll bring up all-star for the Angels, Darren Erstad. Just a youngster, but a heart and soul already. I mean, they have several classic gamers here in Anaheim. Salmon is one. The shortstop, Disarcina, certainly is one. Velarde, of course, he's been gone. I mean, you know the way he plays, but now, there are many on this team, and Darren would never tell you this. I mean, he would never even admit to it. So this is Erstad's team. Now, that's a pretty young guy to be talking about that way. But he commands that sort of respect. Off speed is in there for a strike.
He really does. He has that football background. Tim Salmon is so tough mentally, playing with that foot that he's had a problem with all year long with that torn tendon. But Darren Erstad, if you just watch him play, take ground balls before game, I mean, he's all out all the time. Very quiet kid, doesn't say a lot, but just goes out and does it, and people follow that. Great enthusiasm.
Pops this one back. Posada will turn around and watch it go into the seats. And we just talked about Tim Sockeye Salmon, who has a, I say an arch condition. It's kind of hard. The trainer described it to me beforehand, but it takes too long to explain. But it's kind of the bottom web of the feet. Instead of having a good arch, he's almost become flat-footed. But you watch him run. When it's time to play the game, he just turns it on. The thing is, he can only DH. So that changed a lot of things. We'll talk about it during the game. But now back to the business at hand. The 0-2 count to 24-year-old Darren Erstad. Curveball low and away. 1-2. I mean, Erstad is such a guy that not only is from North Dakota, one of the few major leaguers that ever come from North Dakota. There's a pretty guy that hit 61 home runs that came from up there. Went home to help during those horrible floods a year ago. I got a great story about him when he was in the Cape League. A great summer league for young and upcoming major leaguers. I mean, you know, they all have a job right during the day and then they play the games at night. But a lot of them, they work and they're 17 and they're 18. Right. And so they've got a pretty good work ethic. But not only was he the best player in the Cape League, he was also like employee at the month, of the month at Bradley's. Well, he got people through his checkout line faster than anybody else. So he was winning day and night. So there you have it. Way past Posada, takes a weird carom. Martin, a third of the way towards third, will go back. That was way outside.
That was way outside, and Posada not having a chance at all on that ball, knowing it's a breaking ball, shifted out there. You have to be very good defensively. You have to use quick feet for Dave Wells because he throws a lot of these balls. But what he did, he dropped down there. That was a different type of breaking ball. Roberto Martin running hard all the way, hit second base. Gives a little bit of bluff. That's about a 130-foot throw for Posada. But again, Dave Wells dropped down a little bit with Erstad on the breaking ball and gave Posada a little different look. He's more over top with his curveball. Will drop down every once in a while to left-hander.
Pulls the chain. Erstad can't come up with it. Strikeout, out number 2.
Well, you just see how he goes at people. The first pitch, big curveball for a strike, comes back with a fastball up, 0-2, then goes away with a breaking ball, then that drop-down slider going way off the plate, then he just freezes him with a big, slow hook. So start him off with a curveball and finished him off with one.
So 2 down now, runner at second base, and Tim Salmon is up. Showed you at the beginning of the game how hot he has been in August to bring his average up to just about 300. Salmon in the afternoon game, 1 for 3 with an RBI, and hits this one to right field. Moving back is Paul O'Neill, but he has room on the track and makes the catch. So the Angels strand 1 runner. David Wells wriggles free. Heading to the bottom of the first, the knuckler, Steve Sparks, coming to the mound. Back here in the ball yard in the Bronx, kind of ominous sky. It's been in and out all day long, sprinkled a little bit during the afternoon game. Then we had sun. Now we got dark clouds over left center field. But here we go with the next lineup for Joe Torre and a late scratch. Knobloch was supposed to play again at second base, but Homer Bush will give Knobloch a breather and lead off. Derek Jeter is at shortstop hitting second. Paul O'Neill in right field third. Bernie Williams, he had a .344 batting average, hitting cleanup. Tino Martinez, 104 RBIs, 3 straight years. He's had 100 ribbies. Charles Theodore Davis, back from the DL, hitting a brisk .321, just what the Yankees need, more hitting. Darryl Strawberry hitting 7th. In left field, Jorge Posada, who catches Wells throughout the season, hitting 8th. And Scott Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious sitting 9th against the knuckleballer, and a great story, 8-2, Steve Sparks.
Boy, he has a great story, Chris. After struggling in the minor leagues, Angels needed someone to come up and eat up innings when they lost McDowell and Hill. And this man has done a great job. 85 hits and 90 innings pitched, 8-2 record. Very difficult to stay back on it. Probably as slow a knuckleball as you'll ever see. But he complements it with a fastball when he gets behind and kind of like a slurvish slider.
Well, I'm anxious to see the jugs gun on every time we have like a Wakefield game or a knuckleballer. I mean, this is going to be fun. Works quickly, and they're There's one of those sneaky. Well, I
There's
guess
a sneaky
that fastball looks like Nolan Ryan after you throw a knuckleball.
Well,
Doesn't it,
it really does. Hitting against Joe Niekro and Phil Niekro when they were so exceptional. Joe a little different, threw more fastballs and sliders. But when you tune down, it's very difficult, as I've said before, to gear down. And you're thinking 60, 65 miles an hour. They throw a fastball in there, and it just shocks you because you don't think they're going to challenge you, and they throw it in there, and you swing late. Your mind just cannot catch up to it.
Bush being patient. It's interesting to note, and of course you will be with a knuckleballer, but here's a guy, Homer Bush, that plays once in a blue moon. But the Yankees, as we've beaten into the turf, and not only us, are so patient. They make the pitchers work deep into the count. And it's interesting, as you see Knobloch getting a rare rest, it's interesting to note a young player doing exactly what the veterans on this team do. A little flare to center. Jimmy Evans coming on, Martin out, and Norberto Martin makes the play, 1 out.
Defense for the Angels. You have the catcher that is now playing left field in green because of a bad shoulder, but Jim Edmonds is the heart and soul of this outfield defense. Runs into walls, plays hard all the time. As you see a couple of weeks ago, going hard, and this is why he has that problem in his back between his neck and his shoulder blades. Ran to that wall and just kind of pinched the nerve back there and continues to play. Can't throw a lick, but he just goes out there and battles, as you said before. You mentioned Erstad and Salmon. This is a group of warriors, and not great talent except for maybe 3 or 4 players, but they just continue to battle.
Fly ball to right field. Garrett Anderson moves over towards the line and makes the catch, and Jeter is retired. There are 2 outs. Steve Sparks is an unbelievable story. I was talking with Bill Bavasi, the general manager in the clubhouse before the game. I said, Billy, I got to give you the nod. You took a look at that 0-8 record at the minors this year, and you immediately said, that's really 8-2 in the majors. I said, well, I don't want to give myself that much credit. He said, but our minor league guys, even though he was 0-4 at Midland in AA, they still moved him up to AAA Vancouver 0-4. His ERA was under 3 in the 0-4 record in Vancouver. They frankly brought him up as now he faces Paul O'Neill, Ray, because Jack McDowell was hurt, Ken Hill was hurt, Dixon was struggling and now is in the minor leagues. Alan Watson. They needed a guy to frankly just pitch some innings and not get absolutely hammered. So as you look at McDowell, who's had 2 strong starts since coming back. Sparks got called up despite 0-8. Ran off a few wins right away and had it scuffled a little bit. His last 3 starts, he's gone at least 7. He's allowed 2 earned runs or less. As you look at O'Neill, he has been manna from heaven for this team. 8-2.
Well, they always say when you face a knuckleball pitcher like Tom Candiotti or the Niekro brothers, it messes you up the day prior to his pitching, the day he pitches, and the day afterward, because you're thinking about trying to hit that knuckleball. And it's really a good mix for a staff that has a great arm of Finley. And
agonizing to watch O'Neill try to chop it right to Martin, and a 1-2-3 inning for Steve Sparks, the Nuxie. So it's Nuxie against the guy that some of his teammates probably think is a knucklehead, David Wells. We'll be back. The 2nd inning in New York, and no one will forget May 17th against the Minnesota Twins. David Wells facing Pat Mears for the final out. Only the 2nd perfect game authored here at Yankee Stadium. The first, of course, Don Larson, same high school, at a Point Loma, right outside of San Diego. And I should qualify. You know, people who say, oh, he really doesn't like David Wells. No, I called him, and isn't that good to see 9-0-0-0 with 11 cases? It's just one of those line scores you rarely see. I call him that out of love and respect. A knucklehead, because he keeps that clubhouse loose. He keeps us loose when we see him.
he would like you to call him.
I know he would. So don't think I was ragging on David. He's just different, and a refreshing different. Todd Green lays into this pitch, but Bernie Williams is there. It hangs up there in the heavy late August New York air, and there's 1 out here in the Anaheim 2nd.
Back to David Wells. I mentioned playing golf with him. When I was a coach in Cincinnati, he came over in '95 from Detroit. There's not a person that enjoys himself and has more fun than David Wells. I had him out to my house in Colorado, and we played golf out there for 3 days. And I found him to be just such a good, solid person, huge heart, cares for people immensely. And he gives you that happy-go-lucky attitude, but he's serious about this game and about what he means to this ball club, and he is all business out there.
This is Garrett Anderson, who is 4 for 12 in this series. And, I mean, this is one of those times, Ray, when we're into, you know, this is game 4 of a 5-game series. You can actually talk about what they've done in the series. It's interesting. Of course, he had the home run the other night. Just a good hitter. But this time, Wells gets him to chop it to Tino Martinez, who will make the play by himself. 2 up and 2 down. All right, day-night doubleheader. This was the regularly scheduled game. The day game and the Monday game played in the series were makeup games because the Angels were in town when the beam fell in the left field seats before the first game of that 3-game series. The first 2 are being made up during this series, hence a 5-game series. The third game, as Troy Glaus, #1 pick a year ago, hits it deep to center, but Bernie Williams is there. The third game was played at Shea Stadium. 4-pitch inning for David Wells, Bernie, and some heavy metal. Stride to the plate when we return. No score. The leaders in the West against the leaders in the East. Angels and Yankees, bottom of the second. What a year we've had. Chasing history. McGuire, Sosa, Griffey prepare for the stretch run toward their assault on Roger Maris's 61 home runs. They aren't the only ones involved. Chasing history, SportsCenter's 5-part series, takes you to the front lines to talk to the players, the broadcasters, the fans, all of whom play a big role in one of the biggest sports stories of our time. Chasing History debuts this Monday, 6:30 SportsCenter. Be there. Aloha. Maybe Larry Beal would agree that aloha means a home run. This is, well, they love Bernie Williams, and why? Oh, look at that knuckleball. And then he turns around and fires a fastball to the first baseman, Darren Erstad. That one, I think, Sparks could have probably beaten it to the plate if he took a running start himself.
He very well could have. But this is 63 miles an hour, and it is so difficult. You're going to see people start, and then they're going to get out front, hit the ball right on the end of the bat, hit the top of the ball most often because that ball has a tendency to go down, a lot like a curveball. But look at the knuckleball here. Hardly any rotation, maybe 3 or 4 revolutions there, and Bernie way out front, spinning off the ball, setting up real close to the plate. That's the closest I've ever seen him get to the plate there, Chris. Everybody's setting up close to the plate, and that ball almost takes Nevin's thumb off.
Well, this is the game plan, obviously, Ray. Tino Martinez homered this afternoon. The Yankees had a 2-0 lead after the 3rd inning. The Angels got 3 in the 5th, 3 in the 6th to win it 6-4. For Martinez, that was homer number 23. First Yankee since Don Mattingly, the man he replaced to have back-to-back-to-back 100 RBI seasons. Almost like a curved knuckleball, although, I mean, the knuckle curve, I mean, I don't know that he throws one. I guess any knuckleball could do anything at any time, Ray, but that one looked a little different.
Well, when you get on top of that knuckleball and push it out there, it has a tendency to drop because of the lack of rotation. The ball is somehow pushed downward, but as the air currents change, the ball goes all over the place. And you're right, Chris, sometimes you get a curveball or slider-looking type pitch. They're a 68-mile-an-hour something. It's a little harder than its normal knuckleball, but as with most knuckleball pitchers, they experiment with throwing the ball hard, soft, trying to get the most movement.
How many did you face?
Well, Ken Diotti, Joe Niekro, Phil Niekro were the 3 that were really, truly knuckleball pitchers. And I just...
Charlie Huff?
Charlie Huff, yeah, absolutely, when he was with the Dodgers.
So more than the guys would see now, because the Niekros were, you know, every 4 days in the rotation for years. Tino gets base on balls, the first Yankee base runner of the night. Billy Pito, what do you have?
All right, Chris, here's what we got. We got Seattle and Cleveland. We're in the top of the 3rd inning. A-Rod deep to center. Kenny Lofton going back over his head. Joey Cora comes in to score. That makes it 2-1 in favor of Seattle. And that's where we are right now in the bottom of the 4th.
Well, you looked at that series at the beginning of the year, Ray. Figured, boy, Seattle at Cleveland, late August. We're certainly going to be there doing that game.
Yeah, Seattle 10 games under 500, 12 games behind Anaheim.
But not going to happen.
It's just not going to happen.
It's not going to be 95 for them.
Safely.
You can safely say it. Charles Theodore Davis, hurt very early in the season. He's come back, hitting over 300 the 9 games he's been here. More power, and from both sides of the plate, obviously. So the Yankees, I mean, you figure, well, now how's everyone going to get in? Joe Torre has made it, managed this club in some ways at some positions like a National League roster. So the Raines, and Strawberry, and Curtis. And he's had some injuries, Bernie Williams, so that people do get to play. And it's you don't really have too many people disgruntled, or you have nobody disgruntled on this team. But then again, when you're 94 and 36, you can't be annoyed about too much.
No, you don't worry about a lot. And Darryl Strawberry, as their Chad Curtis, has talked about being unselfish, and all they care about is winning. Is such a great feeling to get on that team bus. Timmy Raines. But I tell you, you start getting so many players, and I think that's the most difficult thing to do as a manager, or the second most difficult. The first is managing a pitching staff, but keeping everybody happy. You have the talent of Strawberry, Raines, Curtis, Chili Davis. It is difficult to get enough bats to keep everybody sharp. Knuckleball, and the reason it's so difficult, this ball ends up selling in like Chris talked about. No rotation, and the ball just turns right into him, just like almost a slider, but with no rotation. You see the ball so well, you feel comfortable, but the speed varies so much. They'll throw it 57, 63, 66, 71, and with that speed variance, the break variance.
Well, you said you hit against the Negroes, as Chile will sit down, 2 outs, and that'll bring up Darryl Strawberry. So, I mean, they were staples. They pitched every year. You saw them a lot. Didn't make you hit them any better. But Charlie Huff, I mean, right now you have a Springer here, you have Sparks here, except for Wakefield, who even in his tenure for first Pittsburgh and Boston was good, then bad, and disappeared, then came back. The guys don't see knuckleballers that much, right? I mean, much less now than even 15 years ago. And then, of course, there's another part of the knuckleball. The catcher is just much of the trouble, right?
Let me tell you, you don't see any kind of ball hit a catcher in the mask. What's this? This ball hits him right in the noggin. Look at this. Boom! Right off the shoulder pad, actually. Nicks his glove, goes off his shoulder pad again. Look at this ball. Now, that ball just sails, moves back toward him. And there's some guys that I've played with. Jeff Branson could throw a great knuckleball. People that you can't believe on the sideline, they fool around with that knuckleball.
Straw tried to time it, but got under it. And Todd Green will squeeze it and make the play. Well, Nevin has the big glove. He's got the hockey helmet. He's all set. No score after 2. Well, thus far, Steve Sparks has the Yankees number. And got to tell you, so far, the Angels have the Yankees number. Now, these are the division leaders. Forget the games behind for a moment. But you see that Anaheim, by coming into New York and winning these first 3 games, has moved past Cleveland for the second best record overall. Now, fans, some know and some have forgotten, they've changed the playoff format a little bit in a good way. In the opening round, the 2 division leaders with the best 2 records will be home for games 1, 2, and 5. And with Boston probably being the wild card team, you cannot play the division. If you're a wild card team, Boston from the East, you cannot open with the Yankees. So the Yankees would then open up with the division leader with the worst record. If you follow me right now, if the playoffs were to start today, as Wells begins the 3rd inning against Phil Nevin, the catcher for the Angels, it would be the Yankees opening up against Cleveland and Anaheim with home field advantage against Boston. All year we've assumed to be Cleveland, Boston, Yankees versus West. So this battle for second best record is very important. And Anaheim's in past the Indians. A lot of people haven't noticed that.
Well, I for one, and that is amazing that happens. in this game and this new format. It's very difficult as a manager to sit over there and see games wasted. You talk about the Atlanta Braves in the same situation with San Diego and Houston, and all those teams are very close, so you have to fight for the best record in baseball. And although you have your division won by 12 games, every game is important because of that mere fact.
And it also follows that if you have the best record of those that survive the opening round, you're 1, 2, 6, 7 in the AL or NLCS. And the wild card team cannot, even though Boston has a better record than the other teams, they're the 4th seed, the wild card team in each of the respective leagues. Nice play by Scott Brocious to retire Phil Nevin. Boy, Brocious has had an all-star year, hadn't he? Let's go to Bill Pito.
All right, Chris, you guys are talking about the playoff picture. Here are the Red Sox against Oakland. Boston coming in 9 games in front in the race for that wild card. And Scott Hatterberg here drives in Mike Stanley in the bottom of the 2nd to make it 2-1 Red Sox. It is now 3-1 Boston in the top of the 4th inning.
All right, Billy, thank you. Boy, you know, the Orioles played such good ball to even get in the hunt at all, and they and Texas are 9 back. But I look at that as Gary DisArcina steps up, who is one of the real reasons why the Angels are in 1st place. And he grew up rooting for the Red Sox, so it's apropos that we're talking about Boston. You know, it's not like Boston's ever gone into a bad spin. So I look at this like a college basketball game when your team's down by 18, and you make a run and you get to within 8. And you make another run, you get to within 4. How much fuel do you really have left in the tank to overtake that team? You know, and as DisArcina hits it well to left, but Strawberry makes the catch. It's hard to keep picking up ground as far as they had to go, especially since Boston never lost 8 or 9 in a row.
Well, you're seeing that with the Yankees now. They're in their first tailspin of the season. It's inevitable that it's going to happen. What the Orioles did, and they're playing great baseball since the All-Star break, but they dug themselves too big a hole. And over the course of the season, you're going to have to win 90-plus ball games. And when a team like the Boston Red Sox have played consistently day in and day out, have not had those real big valleys. They struggle in May and a little bit in June, but the Orioles just got too far behind. And then when you have to leapfrog over 2 or 3 teams, as they've had to do, it's difficult because everybody's not going to lose on the same day.
1-0 pitch to Jim Edmonds. Fastball in there for a strike. Field and Culberth is the home plate umpire. Terry Kraft at first, Jim Joyce at second, Al Clark the umpire at third tonight. Off-speed pitch is in there for a strike to Edmonds, and he was not expecting that one, Ray. 1-2. Wells pitching very smart to some of the big hitters here on the Angels.
Well, this is just a curveball that starts up around your shoulders and breaks off. Great rotation. And hitters give up on it as high, and there he drops down again with that kind of a slider-type pitch. But I don't think he fools people. When he comes down there, he doesn't throw that pitch for a strike. When he comes over top with that curveball, it's generally right around that strike zone. And then when he gets around thigh high, the ball goes down in the ground. You can't do anything with it.
I know his record. Well, you know what? I'm gonna wait till the next time he comes out, because every time I want to ask you a long, involved question, it's 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs. So this is called. I finally learned after all these years to hold off those questions. It took me a long time. But I want to talk about David Wells, and if you think why is he? I know he's 16-2, but he's a much better pitcher than he ever was before, and why? Well, the minute I tee up that question, Edmonds sends it back, gone. That was a no-doubter. Over 400 feet to guess. And Edmonds just sat on it. And the fans cheer now as the ball comes back to the field. But Edmonds with homer number 19.
Well, after throwing a big curveball starting around his letters, he comes back with a fastball. That's what a lot of pitchers do and get you. But you should do it the other way around. You throw a high fastball and then a curveball. There he threw the fastball. Wells really reacting strongly as he will. He takes every one of these at-bats as a personal confrontation.
It's Edmonds' first career home run here at Yankee Stadium. 419 feet. And really for the could be the first time, unless I missed a 1-0 lead in the Monday night game. The Angels have a rare lead in this series early. Down low to Norberto Martin.
Well, not a lot of hitters get up on David Wells' fastball. He's always throwing the fastball up around letter high, and a lot of people just foul it off. Edmonds was able to get his hands up on that pitch after freezing on the high curveball. Saw him motion in the dugout there. He said that pitch was up.
Nice play made by a fan of the upper deck here at Yankee Stadium. And how about this? The Angels have won 6 of 9 with just the 2 games left, so they will win the season series against the Yankees. They're the only team that has the upper hand on the Yankees this year, as you might have guessed. So, I mean, keep that in mind when we start moving toward the postseason. Terry Collins, in talking to him before the game, he says, hey, I'll be honest with you. We've caught them twice at the right time. Remember, they won the opening 2 games of the season out of the West Coast. It was rainy. The Yankees hadn't played in about 3 or 4 days. And Collins' Angels beat Torrey's Yankees the first 2 games of the year. We did the opening night. So, I did at least. And then, of course, they've won the 3 here after the Yankees have had a couple of rough trips into Minnesota and then back home. And, you know, it's the dog days of August. The Yankees haven't been human all year. He said, no, I don't want to take anything away what my club has done, but I will say we've caught them at the right time twice.
Well, their starters are a little tired. Their bullpen has been riddled a little bit with injuries, with Holmes and Mendoza and Nelson all crippled a little bit. And another thing, you mentioned the dog days of August. When you've won and you've clinched your division, basically, it is so tough to come out and play when you've already played 125 games, when the games don't really mean anything. So it's reach down and suck it up time, and you always go through that lull, and it's usually around the 1st of September that happens. It goes for about 10 days, and then you crank it back up and you take it on. The Angels don't have that.
No, they got to win every game.
2 teams with just a slightly different attitude.
Andy Pettit, who lost on the Monday night, and that means the Angels have beaten him twice. They beat him opening night, too, out in Anaheim a long, long time ago.
A big controversy here with Jim Cott, the announcer for the Yankees, talking about last night the Angels picking up Pettit's pitches.
Fouled it off himself in the box, so we'll do it again.
And what he did, he saw, see Kit Cott over there, talked to him for about an hour before today's game, and he saw Rod Carew, the hitting coach for the Angels, talking to some of his hitters after Rod went upstairs, and he found something in Pettit's delivery, and Cott just alluded to that, and the camera happened to catch it, and Chili Davis was up in the clubhouse, and he ran down and told Andy Pettit that, and everybody got real nervous. Mel Stottlemyre didn't speak to him today.
Ripped by Martin for a base hit, so he's had 2 singles tonight off David Wells.
I didn't speak to Jim Cott, and that's one thing that pitchers, when they have a flaw in their delivery and somebody picks it up, it's become such a psychological problem. Chili Davis was the person last night not playing. Mel Stottlemyre, the pitching coach, not really excited about Jim Cott, a great former pitcher and someone who is really respected in this game, but no one said anything to Jim Cott about it until today.
Well, he wasn't tipping.
No, he wasn't. I mean, if he can see it, everybody else can see it. He was just reporting as we do.
Darren Erstad struck out the first inning against David Wells. Angels up 1-0 here. Have Martin, the runner, at first base with 2 outs. And there for a strike to Erstad. Darren, the #1 overall pick back in 1995. Punter and kicker. You alluded to his football background. Punter and kicker at the University of Nebraska. national championship team. I think it's safe to say he's a pretty good athlete. And as polite as they come, an all-star this year, and that won't be the only time in his career. Erstad at 303. And this really just is his second full season. Couldn't hold up. Al Clark said he went around 1 and 2. Erstad, who was 1 for 4 in the first game, had a big double in last night's game. The Angels rally in the 7th inning. 4 for 14 in this series. Off-speed pitch. Jeter is there to snare it. Erstad's retired. Martin is stranded. But Jimmy Edmonds has broken the scoreless deadlock. A no-doubter to right center field. His 19th of the year. 1-0 Anaheim.
Pito back in the studio updating the O's and White Sox. Baltimore coming in 9 games behind in the wild card race. It's Eric Davis in the top of the first, past Jeff Abbott. Brady Anderson comes around to score 1. I think Boston now going to the bottom of 1.
All right, Billy, thank you. Hey, Ray, what about Eric Davis? Well, I mean, what a great, great story. A hitting streak this year. You just wonder. He's an excellent player, of course. But had he not been so injury and almost disease-prone, what kind of player he could have been?
Well, he was right there with the Willie Mazes and the Barry Bonds.
Swing at the first pitch off the knuckleballer Steve Sparks' Jorge Posada, and there is 1 out.
Inability, Chris. I mean, no one ran the bases better. He had the all-time stolen base percentage for a while. I think Barry Larkin is right there now. Had a great throwing arm, tremendous speed, great jump on the ball, and I truly think he and Andre Dawson, of the players that I saw in my era, had the most power. Unbelievably powerful these young men were, and they were raw boned. They weren't that big. Eric Steele probably weighs 195, although he's 6'3", but you know, no question he had a Hall of Fame type talent, and still does. He just was always injury prone.
Well, it's wonderful to see him playing so well and having a good time doing it. Scott Brochus, 1-0 pitch to him, knuckleball up the middle, base hit. So the first hit of the night for the Yankees, and it gives us a chance to tell you about Sunday Night Baseball. The Atlanta Braves, they pitch, they hit. Chipper Jones, Andres the Giant, Galarraga. Where are they going? They're going to St. Louis. Some guy named McGuire plays there. 53 homers and counting. That's Sunday Night Baseball at 8 Eastern time here on ESPN. The Braves and the Cardinals.
One thing you can do on knuckleballers is run, because they're not only are they slow to the plate because of the speed of the ball, but it's very difficult to handle that ball moving. The Yankees leading or second American League with 131 stolen bases behind the White Sox. Brochus stole his 10th base last night.
This is Homer Bush, who in his limited action is certainly impressed. And you know how much he's rubbed off by just being on the bench with all these great veterans that they have here in a season that the Yankees are putting together. Now, the big question is, you don't want to give a long answer, is anything less than a world championship an unbelievable disappointment for the Yankees? That's tough pressure.
I think so. I think so. Without getting long, I think so.
That goes through the legs of Nevin. It's almost, well, down to second base goes Brochus. Here's Bill Pito.
All right, Chris, Mark McGuire stepping up to the plate for the first time as the Cardinals are hosting Florida. facing Kurt Ojala, against whom he is 0 for 4 lifetime. Big Mac with 53 homers.
In 1961. And Roger Maris did not hit one again until September 2nd of that year. Oh, this one tremendously high, but very shallow in right center. There's the Kanji man. And yes, he can.
So McGuire gets under it. Sosa earlier today homered. He's got 52 on the year. Chris, back to you, and the Bronx will keep you updated throughout.
That ball's almost seeding the clouds. That ball that McGuire just hit there. All right, Billy, thank you. Brocious at second base. Homer Bush, the count is 2-1 to him. As the Yankees trying to knot this thing, Hedman's home run on the top of this inning, the third, is giving the Angels a 1-0 lead against David Wells. Regular pitch. That's what I'll call it. A regular pitch from Sparks is fouled back.
Well, that shows you why he went to the knuckleball. 83 mile an hour fastball, and that major league average is about 88. And I don't know anybody that throws less than 86. If you're throwing 86, then you usually don't make it to the big leagues. But shows you there's more than one way to get people out. You don't have to throw the ball that hard. If you could be deceptive with late movement.
Chop wide of third base. And Troy Glaus it looked like he was running on glass. Glaus on glass.
Well, this time of the year, it does get very moist in these foul areas in the outfield. And we'll see right there when he goes to put his foot down. Yeah, safe. He slides, and just the moisture in the night air in the late summer. Troy Glaus, former shortstop, as you mentioned, #1 draft choice. Talking about how great he is defensively and how much range he has. Gary Sarcina loves to play next to him, since he has best range of anybody he's played with.
Knuckleball inside and high. It's 3-2. Derek Jeter on deck. Then Paul O'Neill. The Yankees fans, more than the players, are like, oh my God, they've lost 4 games in a row. What's the matter with this team? I don't think the players feel it like that, although they are, that's just below us, although they are gamers and just do not like losing. I mean, that's why they've won. They may be the first team in the history of baseball to win 100 games before September, but I think the fans are stunned and feel a little panic. Well, panic may not be the right word, right?
Well, the fans are tough here anyway, and I know they're not panicking, but as I came out of the elevator, one of the people that work in the stadium says, what's wrong with this ball club? Let's go. I'm tired of this losing.
Yeah.
So you're right. Fans do put pressure on you. You start as he walks, expecting to win. As you asked me that question, you cannot play the type of baseball these teams played, winning day in and day out, and lessen your expectations. You have to believe that you're going to win. They believe they're going to win, and nothing but a World Series championship will suffice.
Now, Joe Torre sends Derek Jeter up to the plate. Jeter 5 for 15 in this series, 1 for 5 of the afternoon game, the 6-4 win by the Angels. Jeter, O'Neill, and Williams with 2 runners aboard here with 1 out in the third. Brocious at second, Bush at first. If you look at other scores around the bigs, Jeter fouls this one back.
See how he's varying that speed, 63 mile an hour knuckleball, then 65, then 71. That may not seem that much, but when you have a ball that's moving late, and what's so difficult about hitting a knuckleball is your eyes control your hitting. You swing where your eyes last saw the ball, and as you get to the ball moves and it's not there anymore, and your eye has that muscle memory type thing, and shoot, you swing at it and it's not there anymore. Like right there, you swing right where it just left.
Right.
But that's why so many knuckleballs are hit for home runs. If they come in there and they hang, then people are all over them. But watch right here, the ball just goes, he misses that ball 3 or 4 inches because of late movement straight down. But his eyes see the ball in a certain spot. You go to react to that spot, and your eyes just can't, your hands can't adjust to that movement. Your eyes may see it, but it's too late. You've already pulled the trigger.
Jeter swings through that one, and he will sit down for the second time tonight. 2 outs with 2 on now for Paul O'Neill.
This ball is up. It's just kind of a hanging knuckleball, but he's changed the elevation, but it moves into him ever so slightly as Nevin stabs. But look at the eyes here. Look at his eyes just light up. His head goes down, and he misses the ball, and he can't believe it. You see the knuckleball better than any pitch because it's thrown, number one, only about 65 miles an hour, but number two, because it's not moving. It just comes in there with no rotation, and you see it well. Sometimes I think we have a tendency to overswing because we think we can kill it, and you can't kill it.
Paul O'Neill swings at the first pitch. Martine will beat Bush to the bag. Beats Bush to the bag. Say that 3 times fast. Nothing doing for the Yanks. We played 3 here in the Bronx. 1-0 Anaheim. 1-0 Angels, top of the 4th. Looks like Anthony Mason. Time Nick, Charlotte Hornet. We may have a lot of time to do this if the NBA and players and the owners can't get together. We hope they get together just as sportsmen, but there's a league that will get a realization if they stay out on strike. Players and owners will get a slap in the face to realize it ain't what it used to be 10 years ago. End of editorial as we begin the 4th inning. Salmon, Green, and Garrett Anderson against David Wells. 1 run, 3 hits for the Angels. No runs, 1 hit for the Yankees. Salmon 1 for 3 in the first game. 2 out to right field, his first time up against Wells. For a guy like Tim Salmon, David Wells, a guy like Tim Salmon, and the shortstop just our senior, and Garrett Anderson and Jim Edmonds. Rip, yes, it drew chalk, and immediately into the stands. That may be the shortest ground rule double in the history of baseball. But that was about a 210-foot ground rule double in the stands immediately. So Salmon with a leadoff 2-bagger.
Very difficult to play this carom out there in left field if this ball does hit off there. A lot like Fenway Park, oftentimes with the ball going right there in the facade or the chalk. Look at the chalk there. You know that ball's fair. And Al Clark points his finger. But with those protruding stands, the ball sometimes caroms really awkward ways. But that ball taking a high hop off of that.
Todd Green is up. You look at the stand, the ball going in there, and the Angels maybe catch a break, as our man Pepperdine Pete Pasquarelli points out. Hey, bad foot. He'd have to leg his way for a double, although it would have taken a crazy carom down there as it was. Salmon in there at second base. Fair to say Salmon and Edmonds and just our senior and Chuck Finley. Some of the guys who were here and had that awful taste of '95 when they blew the big lead and Seattle caught them, and they had the 1-game playoff, and Randy Johnson. You know, those are the guys that will have earned a trip to the postseason, especially going through this short of a season with the injuries and playing through so many things. And they've waited. They certainly have.
And they've learned from that, Chris. It's like anytime you have bad experiences, I think you gain so much more from it. You learn how to best approach it.
Good pitch by Wells inside the Green, 1 and 2.
Todd Green should be, with nobody out, trying to get the runner over. With 2 strikes, it's very difficult to do. He's going to try to make contact, but sometimes a young hitter gets so carried away in driving in that run, he forgets about the proper way to play the game. And Todd Green, and it may come straight from Terry Collins, thinking this ball field is so explosive. Go ahead and drive that run in. Let's have a big inning.
Chops it wide of Larry Boa, the coach at third base. Now, Boa, the third base coach. Ray, take a look at first base coach jogging George Henry. Now, I mean, there he is, but look at how far back he's playing off of the...
No, he's playing deep.
It's almost like Willie McCovey is at the plate and he's playing first base. He wants nowhere near the bag. I've never seen a first base coach play that far up. Anyway, ground ball right to shortstop. Jeter over to Tino Martinez. And Green is gone. Salmon has to stick at second base. I mean, take a look. Now he's going all the way back to talk to the umpire, Terry Kraft.
That might be why he's playing so deep. He just wants to chat out there.
I don't know.
But I don't think that I've seen a first base coach that deep with a right-handed hitter. But George,
yeah, I mean, Rene goes deep, Latchman, when McGuire steps up, but that's because he's afraid for his life. George.
he's in short right field.
Look at George. That's a classic.
He is.
Well, here's a guy who can pole it, Garrett Anderson. 28-game hitting streak. Earlier this season, 4 RBIs in this series. Chance to pick up another one. 4 for 13 in the series, and Wells works him low and away. Ball 1.
Well, Garrett is a very underrated hitter. .310 this year with 13 home runs, 38 doubles. A 28-game hitting streak earlier. There's 157 hits. Chris is 5th in the league behind Alex Rodriguez. He always gets a lot of hits. 189 last year.
Well, he's one of the best hitters in the league against left-handed pitchers.
It's because he stays on the ball so well. He does not try to pull the ball. David Wells trying to get some of that perspiration off of his hands. It's amazing on a hot, humid night how much that perspiration just drips down your hands. You use rosin, you use whatever you
But
can.
it can help you, can it?
It can. It
wet on
can,
the
it can
ball?
make it a little tacky, but you don't want it to be slippery. And if the balls are not rubbed up real well, they'll be a little slick, and the sweat is just like water. You know, obviously, rainwater makes the ball slippery.
Good pitch on the outside corner for Wells. 2-1.
You know, when you want to wet it up, you want to control the amount of saliva on that ball or some other substance. KY jelly, pine tar,
Or several others. Two-one pitch on the way to Garrett Anderson. Anderson off speed. It fooled him a little bit. He'll pop it to Jeter, who calls for it and makes the play. There are 2 outs. Let's go to Bill Pito.
All right, Chris, Cleveland, a possible first-round opponent for the Yankees in the playoffs. Indians and Mariners. 5th inning, Manny Ramirez, who went 4 for 4 last night, almost came up with a cycle last night, had a home run, and that's a 2-run shot tonight. 3-2 Indians in the bottom of the 6th.
All right, Billy, thank you. Boy, Manny can hit it. Indians need to, I mean, it's hard. They've had no competition, really, in the AL Central, with all due respect to the other teams in that division. So they now may have realized they got something to play for here with the Angels. You're trying to beat them out for second-best record. And what we talked about with the stakes at home field. And the Indians are maybe one team that could, well, of course, I say that. The Angels have beaten the Yankees 6 out of 9, but, you know, the Indian veterans say, hey, we beat the Yankees last year in the playoffs. I know it's a different Yankee team, but that might be a team that the Yankees might fear. But that's for late September. This is late August. And the 0-1 pitch on the way to Troy Glaus. This is really one of the moves that Bill Babasi made. All the moves we talked about at the beginning of the show that Texas made. Dave Holland's now hurt, out for the year at third. They bring Glaus up from Vancouver. This amounts to about their biggest move, in addition to getting guys back off the DL like Jack McDowell and King Hill. He's only hitting .221, but as you mentioned, Ray, he fields so well. And he will hit. That's a good pitch by Wells, 1 and 2.
I think he will hit too, Chris. He loads up so well. What I mean by that is if you watch his front foot and his hands, how he separates and strides with his front foot, moves his hands back, and he just really prepares to hit. He looks like he can hit the ball a long way. He just has to learn the strike zone, get an idea of these pitches that he hasn't seen before.
Hits this one to left field, but Strawberry got it off the handle a little bit, and Strawberry is there. So a leadoff double to Tim Salmon results in nada for the Angels. Bernie Williams leads it off when we come back.
Bill Pito back in the studio updating the Tigers and Rangers. For Detroit in the first, Frank Catalanato, his 4th of the year off of Esteban Loaiza. 1-0 Tigers. Rangers come in, Chris, 4 games behind the Angels in the AL West.
All right, Billy, thank you. Well, Loiza's got great stuff. He hasn't been great yet for Texas, Ray.
No, he hasn't, but Johnny Oates, 2 weeks ago in Cleveland, told me that he has the best stuff on his staff, and they're really happy to get him, and he certainly is going to be a big addition to that ball club.
Well, the Yankee fans hoping that Bernie Williams remains in addition to this club, a big free agent at the end of the year, a $10 million player. He's playing like it. Could be a Yankee that wins a batting title. Hitting at .344, began the day 12 points ahead of Todd Walker of the Twins and 18 points ahead of his teammate Derek Jeter and Boston's Mo Vaughn for the batting title here in the American League. Behind 1 and 2, and there it is up to the moment. Bernie with an 8-point lead over Todd Walker as we speak. And you know what? People forget Mo Vaughn, I think he's just a huge power hitter. I mean, for him to even be in a batting race tells you there's another guy that the decision must be made on.
There are a lot of attractive free agents out there. Mike Piazza, people that can drive the baseball, and Mo Vaughn, when he hits the ball as hard as anybody around. He strikes out a lot, but I think I saw a deal where here he makes contact. He hits like 440 last year when he made contact, because he struck out like 115 times.
Plus, you see the batting leader try to hit against the Nuxie. Rung up by Field and Culbreth. Sparks has retired the leadoff batter in each of the first 4 innings.
And you notice he goes to the knuckleball, does not give in with a 1-0 lead. And Bernie gives up on the ball up. But watch this pitch. Just throws a little floater there, 3-2. The ball just tumbles, and last minute moves a little bit back on the plate, rings him up.
I guess a knuckleball pitcher, Ray, as Tino Martinez steps up, and Bernie will think about how to better time it out the next time up. It must be like a golf swing for even a good throw, because you say, boy, if the knuckleball pitcher can do this, why can't every time out or every year they just be unhittable? And any slight variance, right, and throwing the knuckleball, and you're throwing up batting practice, correct?
Correct, because the ball is not moving, and if you throw it that slowly, hitters are going to just wear it out. But it's a difficult pitch to control. It's very hard to get the ball over the plate. Some knuckleballs move 2 or 3 different ways. I mean, it almost looks like they're sitting there vibrating when you look at it. Catchers don't like it very much. Look at the size of that glove.
Yeah, let's take a look. Yeah, it is not. I talked to Marcel Latchman, the great pitching coach of the Yankees, before the game. Nevin's glove, it's not the pizza glove. They used to wear the huge ones for maybe Hoyt Wilhelm and a couple of the others way back when. That's just a larger glove.
It looks like a first baseman mitt to me as Al Clark rings, or not rings him up, but rings a strike up.
To the chagrin of the fans here in New York.
But this is a difficult assignment when you see the ball moving all over. Look how that ball just drops. I mean, the bottom drops out of that. Johnny Bench once told me the only way to hit knuckleballs is think about curveballs going straight down.
Oh. Tino tried to wait it out, but grounds out to Martin at second base. There are 2 up and 2 down, and hope everyone's enjoying our 1-hour early show of baseball tonight. And, of course, tomorrow evening at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Everything you want to know about the game, games in progress. If you haven't seen baseball tonight this year, where have you been? Updates on chasing history. The chase, Roger Maris's mark of 61, or maybe the Babe's 60 in 154 games. All that on baseball tonight. The hour show at 10, the half-hour show at midnight. And I can tell you, as Chili Davis swings at the first pitch and grounds at this Arsenian short. So 3 up, 3 down. The Angels, Steve Sparks has given up only 1 hit through 4 innings of play. Jim Edmonds' solo home run is the 1-0 margin right now. For the 5th inning, that's the bullpen coach of the Yankees, Tony Cloninger, and we express our sympathies. His brother Frank passed away this weekend in Iron Station, North Carolina, and he wanted me to say hi to Frank's sons, Dale, Dwight, and Billy. So we are condolences from Ray and I and all of us at ESPN to Frank Cloninger's family and Tony. And we just got back today, and we had a nice talk for a while. Tony's a good man. So we wanted to get that across as we begin the 5th inning. Here at the stadium, Phil Nevin, Gary Dissar Sr., and Jim Edmonds. 8-9-1. Nevin, one of 6 #1 draft picks, either by the Angels or by someone else who are now playing for the Angels. He never really has. He's done a good job this year. He's not yet reached, obviously, the potential when you get drafted in the 1st round. It's always a dice roll. Certainly has the size, and I mean, he could be a power hitter in this.
Well, he's got a quick bat. He's got a quick bat. He likes the fastball. That was a changeup there from Wells. But when he was drafted by the Astros, he was thought of as being a potential 30 home run guy, and there against Wells, you see he's hit 3 home runs.
12 at bats, that's pretty good.
It's real good.
So don't tell David Wells that he hasn't quite yet reached his potential, right? He's reached it against David, against the Boomer.
Well, he came up as a 3rd baseman, then they moved him to outfield, and now they're trying to catcher. He didn't really have the skills to play those other positions. He always had a pretty good arm and take advantage of his bat. Just really a developing, really young catcher because he's only been doing it like 2 years.
Good pitch by Wells. Nevin wanted to go for the downs, but instead will sit down. 1 out.
Well, what a great pitch sequence. He started him off with fastball, then look at this curveball. He went to the changeup, then the fastball, and a big hook. He wasn't even close to that pitch, but that's why David Wells is 16-2. And the thing about David, he doesn't put up a lot of crooked numbers on those boards. He doesn't walk a lot of people, so he doesn't get himself in trouble. You have to hit your way on with this defense behind him.
Gary Dissar Sr. with a base hit up the middle. And I want to ask you about him because here is Jim Edmonds coming up. And his last time up in the 3rd inning, a no-doubter off David Wells.
High fastball after a big high breaking ball. High fastball just rips it out there. 419 feet, they told us.
So Edmonds, his first Yankee Stadium home run, is 1 for 2 on the night. Dissar Sr., when you hit the way he has this year, around the 300 range from the number 9 hole, the only one that came to mind was when the Twins won the series at 87 and especially 91 when Gagne was hitting 9th and hitting 280, you know, with power at 290. Actually, he probably hit 300 one of those years. Chop but foul. And you play defense the way he does, and you're such a spark plug. I mean, when you get that from the number 9 hole, in many ways, in a lot of ways, he could be your MVP.
Well, he could. He is such a big part of this ball club, often been referred to as the glue that holds this ball club together. You know, hitting 9th in the American League is, if you can get on base, it's such a big plus because of the fact you've got all those big bombers coming up behind you. It's like a double leadoff hitter. Dissar has scored 62 runs out of that 9 hole on the way to scoring about 85 runs. That's a whole lot of runs for a 9-hole hitter.
Interesting, like Gagne, they're both suburban Boston. Well, trying to be careful with Edmonds. Works him away, low and away for a ball, 1-1.
The Angels 13th in stolen bases. Dissar 10 out of 14. Jim Edmonds, as you look at him there, not only swinging the bat, but has stolen 19 bases.
Yeah, Jim, one of the many. The Angels playing hurt this year. He's on this one, though. ropes it to right. O'Neill up with it quickly, and the Angels have runners at first and second with one out. As we look at our in-game box score, Edmonds is now 2 for 3, and here comes Norberto Martin, who is 2 for 2. So the top of the order doing their job. Actually, 9-1-2 really doing the job thus far against David Wells, even though it's only amounted to 1 run thanks to Edmonds' home run. But with runners in scoring position, not doing the job. Again, the Angels have a runner in scoring position. Let's see if they can deliver.
David Wells, a lot like Tommy Glavine and the great left-handed pitchers in this game, has the ability to make pitches when he's in trouble.
Off the facade. Well, not the facade. Maybe you think of different at Yankee Stadium, but these are the overhang from the upper deck. So 0-1 to Norberto Martin. There we go. That's the facade. I shouldn't use the word facade so freely here at Yankee Stadium. That's the facade.
And it really is beautiful. You know, they redid this ballpark.
Yeah, that's just the
wall.
That's just the overhang. My fault. Little chopper. Nice backhanded play by Tino Martinez to get the middleman. Edmonds sliding into second base. All right, Tino went a long way for that ball. And I don't know that Bush, had he gotten it, well, he certainly couldn't have made it play at second base. That would have been a tough whirl.
And with the way Norberto runs, you're going to see David Wells look just for a moment. I don't believe David would have beat him to first base. So I think this is the only play. Great play. Yankees, such a well-rounded ball club. First in pitching, first in hitting, and third in defense.
So now runners at the corners for Darren Erstad. You talked about the great lefties like Tommy Glavine pitch with runners on. For that being a fielder's choice. Opponents against Wells with runners in scoring position. 1 for the last 50.
Well, that doesn't surprise me because he can go to that next level. That's a great.
So that's
stat.
about 4 levels above.
Oh, that is. They just turn it up a notch and Tom Seaver did that better than anybody I ever played with. When you're going to go out there and throw 120 pitches and be a man, as you started this telecast with, looking to go 7 innings or more, you have to pick your spots. You can't go hard as you can all the time. And David Wells knows that, seasoned veteran, makes pitches when he has to, conserves that energy when he can. And that's why he's so effective, and that's a phenomenal stat there.
1-1 to Darren Erstad, who was 0 for 2 tonight. He struck out, and he's popped to short. It's a little liner to short. As you look at scores, the Padres up with Philadelphia again. Atlanta and Houston, an interesting series. Boy, the Astros have been hot. Took care of the Cubs. Won last night.
Timmy Salmon on deck. Wells 1-1, going to try to pitch Erstad really tough here. But you don't want to have to face Salmon with the bases loaded.
You also see last couple of days been the Giants picking up ground in the wild card race and the Cubs and the Mets today. The Mets beat the Giants. The Cubs also win. So now that distances San Francisco a little bit from the two teams really at the top of that NL wild card race. Off speed, chopped that by Erstad. The count is 1-2 with 2 down.
Well, he's pitched Erstad all night long away with the breaking ball. Let's see if he comes here 1-2 with the fastball inside just to keep Erstad honest. Erstad doesn't strike out a lot. I think he's got him set up on the inside part of the plate because that pitch there, he nicked it, and it was a heck of a pitch. So he should come right back in with a fastball inside part of the plate here, and then go back to curveball 2-2.
Chopper, Bush to Martinez. 1 for 51 against Wells with runners in scoring position. Heading to the bottom of the fifth, 1-0 Anaheim.
In the studio, the Rangers once down 1-0 against Detroit. Strike back with 3 in the bottom of the first. 1 run already in when Juan Gonzalez drills it up to the base of the wall. 2 runs coming to score. Gonzalez now with 131 runs batted in this year. 4-1 Rangers now, the top of the second.
All right, Billy, you know, Gonzalez just missed that target by about 2 feet. Bottom of the fifth, the Yankees is staring a 1-0 deficit in the face. I know it's only 1 run, but the Angels have beaten them Monday night. They beat them Tuesday night. They beat them this afternoon. They play again tomorrow night. And it's important for the Angels, the Yankees to break through. They go against the ace, Chuck Finley, tomorrow night. Look at the strawberry ship.
And the shortstop, and that's why Darryl showed the bunt. Darryl, a great breaking ball hitter. Look at all 3 guys on the right side of second base. We saw this the other night with Barry Bonds. And then watch this knuckleball again. That's hardly any rotation at all. And he just swings right underneath it.
Strike 3. You know what's funny about that, Chip? Nevin looked to fire it right down to the bag at third base and then realized, wait a minute, my third baseman's a shortstop. You see him double clutch?
That's concentrating on the pitcher there. And here's a knuckleball now with 2 strikes. And this ball moves a little bit down. And again, he swings not underneath it, but out in front of it. He just swung at that ball before he got there.
4th strikeout tonight for Steve Sparks. Giving up just 1 hit. He has been a breath of fresh air. We started the telecast to tell you as he faces Jorge Posada that he was brought up to pitch some quality innings. He was pretty good a few years ago with Milwaukee. Then kind of had a bad year, was up and down 2 years ago with both AAA New Orleans and then the Brewers. Had Tommy John type elbow surgery a year ago, so did not pitch. And that is inside the line. That will carry him off the wall. Pretty good bounce to Todd Green, but not enough for him to make a play. So Posada in with a double down the left field line, and the fans coming to life.
I think Posada is going to be the next great catcher, switch hitter, third baseman, way off the line. Ball just curling, and watch the ball as we talked about. Carrying off there, the umpire Al Clark signaling safe, no fan interference. Play it.
So that'll bring up Scott Brocious, who has been the hottest Yankee in this series.
Third baseman here, Glaus, needs to back on up with 1 out. He's going to pretty much try to drive this run in here, and he's playing even with the bag. And that's right where the ball will eat you up down there at third base. And that comes with experience, not playing very much third base, coming into the league as a shortstop. But you run on second base, you need to knock this ball down, even with 1 out. Brocious not going to bunt this knuckleball. But that's kind of no man's land when you're right there, even with the bag.
Brocious with a base hit in his first at-bat. Even though he had an 0 for this afternoon, he's 6 for 14 in the series, and there's a second base hit off Sparks. Posada being well, he's held up now by Willie Randolph on a nice effort by Garrett Anderson and cut off by Erstad. He would have been, as it turned out, gone at the plate. And Randolph figuring, well, there's just the 1 out. Let's see if we can get something going here.
Watch Posada here. He does not break immediately. He gives a little bit of extra little pause there, and he doesn't run well anyway. Garrett Anderson on a perfect hot comes in, just hits the cutoff man perfectly. He would have been nailed. Watch the runner here. Comes off, pauses, then goes, but he doesn't run well, and with 1 out, the right thing. Now you have first and third. All you need is a fly ball to the outfield.
That'll bring up Homer Bush playing second base to give non-block a breather. Bush 0 for 1 and a walk. Up high, ball 1. Last, we talked about David Wells' runners in scoring position. Sparks almost as good, at least the last 4 starts. 3 for 22. Although one of those 3, just the base hit there by Brosius. 2-0 to Homer Bush, young man from East St. Louis, Illinois, who is 25 years of age. Didn't see much action here with the Yanks, but I showed you batting average of .341. When he's gotten in, he's done a heck of a job. Terry Collins hoping his knuckleballer Steve Sparks can wriggle free of this Yankee rally. Bush sends it down the left field line. Back, gone! His first Major League home run. So here's Bernie Williams and Paul O'Neill and Tito Martinez. They can't get ahead. Homer Bush hits a 3-run home run.
Well, you mentioned, Chris, earlier how these young players take the lead of these veteran players. Homer Bush working the count to 2-0, like the O'Neills and Martinez, and blast a high fastball, or it may have been a knuckleball. I just know it was high. He's too young to make a curtain call.
Well, when they put up his first Major League home run, the fans may not know that. Rip foul. Boy, we had Reggie Williams this afternoon hit his first Major League home run for the Angels. And this evening, it's Homer Bush. They're telling him, go ahead. You don't want to do it.
Look at this ball, right up around his letters, maybe even higher than that. Knew he got it, touched his hat. He's an excited young man. I remember when I hit my first one in 1978, Bob Ochinko in San Diego.
Ochinko,
yes,
lefty,
sir.
yes?
Oh, man, was that a thrill.
Wasn't he lefty?
He sure was.
Yep, I remember Bob Ochinko. There's a great smile. That's a great picture. Congratulations, Homer.
Somebody named him right.
Homer Bush. Playing in the house that Ruth built. Yeah, you don't want to name your kid Double Bush. Homer Bush. 4-3. You don't want to do that. This one is ripped by Jeter toward the fence. A 2-hopper against the wall. Derek will stop at second. 4 straight hits for the Yankees on Steve Sparks. So Marcel Latchman will come out and talk with Sparks. I remember when Jimmy Leland had Tim Wakefield come up with 92, he said, I'd go out to the mound, but I wouldn't know what to say to him. As Bush is still quiet. You don't have to hide the smile. Marcel said, you know, later on, early on in his career as coaching, well, not early on, but he had Charlie Huff toward the end of his career, and he learned a lot about knuckleballers. Here's the pitching coach learning from a veteran knuckleballer, so he does have some background and knows what to tell him a little bit. But a lot of guys go to the mound. Ray, if you had a knuckleballer, I mean, what do you tell him?
I wouldn't know what to tell him. I wouldn't know what to tell him. Just settle back, get back into your rhythm. He's been leaving the ball up. Chris, that's the only difference this inning. And when knuckleballers start leaving the ball up, the ball flattens out. There's not that break. And a lot of times it's been trying to throw the ball too hard, and pressure or stress will do that.
So the Yankees, 3 runs home. Jeter at second. Paul O'Neill up. Grounded at second. Giving you a fielder's choice to end the third inning. Missed low and away, 2-0.
I don't know who the MVP is going to be this year, but certainly the Yankees have 3 viable candidates in Jeter and O'Neill. Actually 4, Martinez Williams. I mean, you look at their stats, and they throw some numbers at you.
Nomar Garcia-Parra, maybe that's the talk right now for who. Of course, we have, what, 4.5 weeks to go. Of course, if the Yankees win 117 games and set a new record, and Bernie Williams wins the batting title, I know in the true sense was the MVP. You know, they would have won, what, 108 without him, but that might be tough to deny.
Well,
batting title on a team that sets a record.
I think when you have so many good players, it's tough to pick one of them and get your vote split.
O'Neill swatted at that pitch, and Sparks has been keeping the ball a little bit lower. It's thanks to that, or after the talk by Marcel Ashton. There's Bernie. Even though he missed some time, an injury early on. He win a batting title. I don't know. That's a tough vote. For Anaheim, they win the division. It would be their MVP. It's tough.
The only problem I have with Bernie is the fact that he did miss all those games, and they won so many games, and he's actually 4th on his club in RBIs, and I think, and I mean, Brocious has driven in 80, and then Martinez 103 and O'Neill 96. On the other hand, leading the league in runs scored, you have Jeter with 103 runs scored, so that's a lot of production.
Opposite way goes O'Neill. Here comes Jeter being waved to him. It takes a crazy carom. Throwing to second base. Safe. 4-1 Yankees. Their 4th extra base hit for the inning. Their 5th hit in a row.
Well, another knuckleball, and this one's a little bit out over the plate. O'Neill just fights it off down the left field, something he's become very adept at, driving the ball the other way. Again, Funky Karam almost getting thrown out at second base. Green with that sore shoulder throwing the ball high, and O'Neill making a kind of a reverse turnover flip-flop, some type of slide. Look at him sliding by the bag and flipping back, touching the bag with his other hand.
It was interesting, that's for sure, Ray. Here's Bernie Williams now that they're figuring, hey, this opposite way thing is going to work.
Well, you have to wait, and that's the thing. You so used to gearing up 90, 91, 92 mile an hour fastballs, and you start throwing the ball at 65, and it takes you a little while, even when you know that in your mind. There's a lot of difference between that 60 mile an hour floater and that 92 or 3 mile an hour fastball.
Hit and run. Martin will go over to Erstad. Already the third base is Paul O'Neill. Let's move it. Let's hit and run over to Billy Pito.
All right, Chris, Boston and Oakland. We're in the 6th inning. Miguel Tejada here for the Athletics against Brett Saberhagen. Drops. 2 runs coming to score. That makes it 4-3. The A's have added 1. We're tied at 4 in the top of the 7th.
The A's can score some runs now. As there's the guy that started the year with the A's, Mike Fetters. Mike Force Fetters is up now in the Angels' pen. A one-time Angel. He's back with. Well, he pitched for California. Now he's pitching for Anaheim. Things change. So 4 runs home. Potential 5th run in the person of O'Neill is standing at third base. Chiquita Martinez can time one out. And he goes opposite way, but that'll find the seats. Chino with 104 RBIs this year. Scoots away from Nevin. Here comes the runner to the plate. Sparks cannot apply the tag. O'Neill is safe. Sparks says he had him. Here comes Collins. Collins to say, look, the glove was right here. How could he possibly have missed his foot?
That's exactly what he's saying. And oftentimes pitchers come to the plate and they go to the plate as opposed to going to 2 or 3 feet up the line. I think Sparks received the throw on the plate, and Collins, because the ball clearly beat him, here we see it, the ball hits his kneecap, goes away. Nevin pumps on it. But look at him, he's actually kind of behind the plate, and he puts the glove down. And boy, oh boy, I don't know. That's I could not see. Here's another look. You look at him trying to block the plate, slides by. He's actually safe. But that's an unbelievable call. That's an unbelievable call. Because if you look right here, you're going to see him miss him and then tag the bag, tag him around his groin area. But to tell you what, anytime that ball beats you, might as well call the man out, because you're not going to get an argument if the ball beats you.
Going the opposite way as Tino. That'll be in the stands now. Yeah, O'Neill, remember he had the interesting route to second base and then the interesting route to the plate?
Yeah, you trick him.
Bobbing and weaving like someone coming home from a little late.
Nevin's bobbing and weaving.
Yeah, he says, I've had enough of this. That's a strike 3, which Nevin has to throw down the first. Paul O'Neill sliding and Homer Bush is hitting. And it was giving the Yankees a 5-1 lead.
Yankee Stadium, Yankees up 5-1. Watch this play here. Sparks covering the plate, almost behind the plate as O'Neill tries to avoid him. And watch his glove go between his legs and as his hand touches the plate. Very tough call. Umpire right on top of it. Calls him safe, says his hand was in there. Even in slow motion, it's inconclusive.
Well, Field and Colbert felt that he had a good view of it, and he was very definitive. I said, no, you didn't get him, and I can't disagree with it. Although Terry Collins disagreed, to no avail. 5-1 for the Yankees. Seeing the Angels are the team with the big innings in this first 3 games of this 5-game series. The Yankees hang a 5 spot. So now Anaheim starts off with Tim Salmon. Salmon with a fly ball, a rule off the end of the bat. Jeter out. Oh, man! Derek Jeter. Willie Mays-esque from short.
Well, you're talking about serious thunder coming at you here in Bernie Williams. This is a great, great play. That's as good a play as you're going to see. Derek just snatches it away, said, hey, I got this one, partner.
Wow. We saw him make a catch like that. I still remember it, and he and I always talked about it. At the 3rd week of his career a couple of years ago in their 96 against Cleveland, he went even farther out. He made a catch, and it was, I know Joe Torre remembers it. It was the night that everybody realized the Yankees have a shortstop here.
Well, that play right there, I think, is the toughest play for a shortstop to make. You make all those ground ball plays, but when you're going into serious traffic with outfielders, that's no man's land out there. And Nomar does it pretty well, but Omar Vizquel, I think, is the best at just turning his back and going. Sometimes he gets in the way of outfielders, but as you said, Derek Jeter showing you why he's one of the supreme young shortstops.
What a great play by Derek Jeter. One and two, the shot, and that's wide. Now, how will David Wells change what he's doing, although he was only in a 1-0 game, with a 4-run lead?
Well, I think he's one of those guys that pitches the same way all the time. He'll probably throw more first ball, fastball strikes as opposed to trying to throw the breaking ball sometimes over for a strike. But once you get in that game groove and you're as a high caliber pitcher as he is, he's just going to come right at people and, again, try to make a beat him with the bat.
ripped, but Grosis is there. Across to Tito Martinez. 2 up, 2 down for Wells. Here's Billy Pito, the judge.
Juan Gonzalez, 2 RBIs in the first, and another one, base hit, scores Rusty Greer. Gonzalez now 132 RBIs this season. Texas winning on Detroit 6-1. They're 4 games behind the Angels when play begins.
Well, he can get him in bunches, that's for sure. Although I don't know that anyone can get him in bunches enough to get to 190. Hack Wilson, or 184, which is the American League record, Lou Gehrig. That was even, in this year that we may see the home run mark bested. I know he was on pace ahead of Hack Wilson. I didn't think so. No,
Well,
I don't know if it's possible.
I don't know that it is either, because you're not in control of that entirely. Because people have to get on base for you. At least in a home run hitting deal, that's all your own. That's on your own head. But the Rangers, they had so many people getting on base. Goodwin was getting on base 2 or 3 times every day, and he was driving them in. And, those guys are going to hit a lull as the season goes on, and that's a toward pace and something I agree with you. I don't know if it's going to ever be better.
Garrett Anderson, little looper to Homer Bush. And a big inning, that's exactly what you want your veteran pitcher to do. We get you 5 runs, retire them in a hurry. 1-2-3 inning. And a great play by Derek Jeter.
On ESPN, when Chipper Jones leads the Braves into Busch, where Big Mac keeps slugging his way toward the record book. Braves, Cardinals, Sunday Night Baseball, Sunday at 8 on ESPN.
All I care about is baseball.
5-1, the Yankees lead, bottom of the 6th inning, and what a play Derek Jeter made on the looper by Tim Salmon. And a classic smile. Boy, that's just, I'm going to get it. And even though my center field's a pretty big guy with the long strides, who can be upon me in a hurry, I'm going after the ball.
There's one thing that people are not really able to rate talking about scouts, and that's makeup. When you look at this ball club, you go around their infield, their outfield, their pitching staff, they have great makeup. That means they know how to play the game of baseball. They do it unselfishly, and they come out and do it every day as hard as they can. Derek Jeter is showing you an example of that.
Chili Davis, I just noticed this also. We're all talking about it. Now, Chili, switch hitter, 0 for 2 from the left side, is trying from the right side against the knuckleballer Steve Sparks, which I've seen from time to time from some switch hitters against even pitchers who are not knuckleballers. Why not try it, right?
Well, I don't see any reason not to try it. You just get to the side that you're most comfortable with, because the ball is going to go down, away. I mean, there's no way to tell what it's really going to do.
It doesn't
so you
discriminate
just get
against righty or lefty.
It's not like trying to hit a slider. And that's the primary reason people switch hit, is you get the breaking ball coming to you as opposed to going away from you.
But here, nobody, including the catcher Phil Nevin, knows where it's going to go.
No, he certainly doesn't tonight. Fastball right through there.
Yeah, well, there was one on the outside corner.
See, that goes to show you in a ball game that now down 5-1, he throws a fastball 3-1. In an earlier situation, 3-2 count, he threw the knuckleball. Here's another knuckleball.
Now that one back off the paraphernalia. Again, Mike Fetters is warming up in the pen. Veteran right-hander. Angels making a move with a division rival. Fetters, A's, Milwaukee, back to the Angels. 3-2 pitch to Chile. Ball 4. After we're done here, we'll move on out to Chavez Ravine for the Dodgers and the Expos. Vladimir Guerrero. If you haven't had a chance to see him, he is one of the fine young talents in this game. Gary Sheffield and company for the Dodgers. That's our next game. Channel Park going for L.A. Carl Pavano from Southington, Connecticut. One of the pitchers that went to Montreal from Boston, the Pedro Martinez. He'll go for Montreal.
And he has good stuff. When he throws hard, his fastball moves all over the place. Great pitcher's body. A lot of people talking about it.
Strawberry swings through that one. Darrell 0 for 2 tonight. The Yankees came into this game, to remind you, with a 4-game losing streak. The only 4-game losing streak they've had all year. They've only had one 3-game losing streak before that. That was the first 3 games of the season, and it's interesting to note that 2 of those 3 losses in that streak, when they started 0-3, were Anaheim. 3 of the 4 losses in this streak are Anaheim. Joe Torre might be thinking, you know, 1 is an accident, 2 is a trend. Maybe these Angels just for some reason can get on it.
Well, I mean, the thing that it does for the Angels, which no other team in baseball can say, is that they can play with the Yankees. They match up well against the Yankees. Whether it's their pitching or whatever, they've been able to do it over 10 games.
Strawberry took a big cut. Ball drifts into the glove of Troy Glaus. Makes a nice play to snare it. Let's go to Bill Pito.
All right, Chris, we check in on Mark McGwire as he chases Roger Maris 0 for 1 when he steps up in the 4th. Kurt Ojala on the mound, ring him up and sit him down, call strike 3. Ojala, 1 hitter right now through 5. McGwire is 0 for 2.
Well, we will keep you posted. Every time it comes up, everything stops. I got to tell you, as Jorge Posada is up, the scene at Pittsburgh, which is not unlike other places, here's the fans on their feet hoping their pitcher strikes out Mark McGwire because you root for the home team. But then McGwire hits a homer and you're still cheering. It's like a golf tournament where you're rooting for everybody to hit good shots. You know, and you rarely see anything like that. An opposing player, and he had the curtain call at Pittsburgh after the home run. I mean, it was, and of course, he packs him in everywhere he goes. And oh, Sparks is there, and Chile is doubled off. He can field his position as Posada hit a bullet back, but it turns into a double play. 5-1 Yanks. ESPN Wednesday Night Baseball is brought to you by Rogaine Extra Strength for Men and by Kelly Tires, a good deal on a great tire. Five-1 Yankees here in the top of the 7th. All 5 runs coming in the 5th inning. The big blow, a 3-run homer by Homer Bush off Steve Sparks, but Sparks, he was sharp there on that hit by Posada. Chili Davis had no chance. And a double play. New left fielder now for the New York Yankees, Chad Curtis. Better defensive player, has gone in there for Darryl Strawberry in left, so Chad is limbering up. As David Wells now starts the 7th inning against the bottom of the Angels order, Glaus, Nevin, and DiSarcina. And we should point out, Ray, that, I mean, we were watching a guy who he's never won 17 games in one season in his career. 95, when he was both Cincinnati and Detroit combined, he won 16. He won 15 a few years back with Toronto. Of those 82 pitches, what about the breakdown?
Well, normally you would like to have 2-to-1 strikes to balls. This man has thrown 63 strikes, 19 balls.
Now there's a strike. It was a base hit by Glaus, but that's 10 straight. Well, before that, 9 straight batters. Wells had started off with a strike. This time, the Angels figured, hey, they're going to come over the plate. Let's hack at it, right?
Right. You look at that, 19 balls, 63 strikes. That's really almost unheard of. 64 strikes, 83 total. We talked about his staff, the starting pitchers not going deep. Wells shouldered with the task of coming out here tonight and going deep in the ball game, and already into the 7th inning, just 83 pitches. And that's what he means to the staff. And I really think that he has a heck of a shot to win the Cy Young. With perfect game behind him already, chance to win 20, get his earned run average under 3.
That's another tight vote. David Cohn's going to win 20 games here, probably ahead of him. David is 18. Boomer Wells going to win 20 games, probably. Not like Roger Clemens has exactly stunk out the joint. A reminder, with his 18 strikeouts last night, there's a fellow named Pedro Martinez who's trying to become the first guy to win Cy Young Awards in back-to-back years in opposite leagues. That's tight.
It is. This has been a marvelous season for baseball. I don't know that I have enjoyed a season. I know I haven't enjoyed the last two. Well,
you enjoyed the end of last season when we get to work in September
that was
and
a lot
October.
Of fun, and we got that to look forward to.
Yeah, a majority of the divisional playoffs seen here on ESPN. A couple of games that first Tuesday, a couple of games that first Wednesday. That's always a lot of fun. This copyrighted telecasts are presented by the authority, the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts or descriptions of this game may not be disseminated. There's that word again, without express written consent. Dare I say, the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball means business.
That's frightening.
2-1 count to Phil Nevin. The Angels trying to scrap their way back into this thing. Little flare that's right to Homer Bush at second base, and there's one out. What a night for him. He'll never forget the night he first major league home run. Homer Bush. And Knobloch was in the lineups originally handed out for game 2, so it was a late switch by Joe Torre, and Knobloch wants to play about every game. Boy, Joe felt something, and he felt the right thing, that's for sure.
Well, Homer only 43 at-bats in 28 games, so he usually goes in to spell Knobloch, hitting at a 349 clip coming into the day. But, yeah, Chuck Knobloch is another one of those players that really, I think, solidified this team after the great year in '96, struggling last year, and had made that acquisition in the wintertime. It's another great player, knowing how to play the game and really how to sacrifice himself for the betterment of the ball club.
Here's one of those players that just knows how to play the game. Masters zone. We talk about Knobloch, but we're looking at this our senior at the plate, hitting an even 300. One and one to Gary. Gary is 1 for 2 with a base hit in the 5th inning. Flew out to left field in the 3rd. Chris Berman along with Ray Knight here from Yankee Stadium. First half of our double dip on Wednesday Night Baseball. The man that thrilled so many on May 17th. You see that one of his many tattoos is kind of hanging out from underneath the short sleeves on a very humid night here in New York. Those ominous skies have really held off. And David Wells is borne down. Jim Edmonds solo homer, the only blemish on him tonight. 1 run, 7 hits allowed by Wells. Showing bunt, pulling it back to Arcenia. Count is 2-1. Again, we reminded the Angels have come from behind in all 3 of the games in this series thus far. They have never won 4 games in a single series at Yankee Stadium. Now, admittedly, there aren't very many 4-game series anymore, but back once upon a time when doubleheaders were at least common on a Sunday, lost neither the Los Angeles nor the California nor the Anaheim Angels have won 4 games in a series. And they play again tomorrow night. Chuck Finley going against David Cohn. Talking about a couple of aces. You'll see him tomorrow night. Terry Collins done a marvelous job, Ray, keeping the club together, and he's a fiery little guy, and I think the team, in a different way, reflects that fiery attitude. Would you agree?
I agree with you totally. I really liked him in Houston, and they had some problems there with his demeanor. Get the right group around you.
Jeter with a nice flip to Bush. They try to make the turn. That's not going to happen, but a nice front end of that attempted double play.
You get the right group around you, as he has done here. They've done a marvelous job with developing their young players. Edmonds, Erstad, and Terry is. I mean, he knows the game inside out, a disciple of, as we look at the Angels' record.
Well, June was the month where they really got themselves going in the race. And in July, they slid back with all the injuries, but since August the 1st, we showed you at the beginning of the telecast, 16-9, including these wins over the Yankees.
You see these managers coming almost like a factory. LaRussa first, and then Leland, third base coach for LaRussa, then Collins, the bullpen coach for Leland. And you get an idea that you're around good baseball minds, you know how to run a game and handle people.
First pitch, strikes by David Wells, 21 of the 28 batters. I mean, that's a veteran that knows. That's a veteran on his way to a 20-win season.
Well, you make that first pitch for a strike, you can go a lot of different ways. And that's what young pitchers fail to do. They get behind hitters, then they have to go in there. Hitters become more aggressive to areas. You make a pitch, a decent pitch to an area, and a hitter is aggressive and all over. You get ahead of people like David Wells does, then you can go to the changeup, the curveball, upstairs, downstairs, then you create havoc for a hitter.
Since the All-Star break, only Roger Clemens in the American League has a better ERA than David Wells. Wells coming into the game with a 2.35 ERA since that time. Jim Edmonds is the man that solved him tonight with a home run and a single in his last at bat. Wells ahead on the count 0-2. Edmonds held off 1-2. A little note here that if Wells wins tonight, that means he would win 17 of his last 18 decisions. He actually began, he's 16-2. He began 0-1, by the way. The Angels beat him early on out on the coast. That opening two-game series. The last American League pitcher to win 17 of 18 decisions, Steve Stone, one of our broadcast compatriots now, 1980 with the Orioles, a Cy Young year. Wells gets a lot of run support, but fans wanted it.
Well, the fans can't see this angle. The ball's a little up, a little out. Edmonds' great eye. That's why he's leading off. Fans here want everything, you know.
That wasn't that close.
No, that wasn't even close. But from that upper deck, it looks like it was close.
Yeah, how could you miss that? Ripped to right. Back. Gone for the second time tonight. Jim Edmonds has homered off David Wells. That was real patient hitting on the 0-2. He laid off. The first ball was an even tougher layoff. The second one the fans wanted, and it rewarded himself with a home run.
But another high fastball, and this is something that David Wells and a lot of other pitchers will do. There's a little bit of macho in him. Edmonds hit a high fastball before. Wells didn't believe it. He comes back with another high fastball. Maybe he'll believe that Edmonds can hit a high fastball now.
So Jimmy 3 for 4 with all 3 RBIs tonight for the Angels.
Chris, while we have a moment, I'll tell you, James Rodney Richards, who was a great star for the Astros, most overpowering stuff that I've really faced, threw me nothing but fastballs. First time I ever faced him, I hit a double off the left field wall. He had a devastating slider, and the macho in him made him keep throwing me fastballs, and I kept hitting them. I never had to hit his slider. Finally, after about 3 years in the league, he started throwing me a slider and wore me out.
Norberto Martin showed bunt, pulled it back. Jimmy Edmonds sitting not very far off, the great batting coach of Hall of Famer Rod Carew. There's a class man there. Martin in the hole. He runs well. Jeter's got to get him. Barely got him. Martin thought he beat it, but good call at first base by Terry Kraft. Long throw by Jeter, but Edmonds has made this a 2-run game. Kelly Springfield, key plays of the game. Edmonds' 8th 2-home-run game of his career. 7th inning stretch time here at Yankee Stadium. The bottom of the order, Scott Brocious, and then Bush and Jeter will come in against Mike Horsfetters. So Sparks is gone after 6 innings, and Fetters will now take over. Stats with Oakland and now with Anaheim. He's a veteran, Ray, that knows what he's doing out there.
Yeah, he does. Sinker, slider, and has always been a guy that has been more of a middle guy. Not overpowering stuff, but around the plate. Scott Brocious, what a great year he's had. You know, we mentioned the 80 RBI, hitting over 300 most of the year now, down to 297, playing a stellar third base. He's going to end up producing about 190 runs, 80 RBIs, 74 runs scored, 10 stolen bases. The Yankees have 6 players with 10 home runs and 10 stolen bases. You don't see that very often. There's Homer Bush. Chris said his first home run tonight. Just seems like these Yankees just keep turning out solid young players.
Now Brocious gets a base on balls, and here is the man of the evening, Homer Bush. Yeah, let's hear the fans give him his due. It's nice. They get it. I mean, they understand that it's the moment of his career thus far. He's the reason the Yankees are finally hoping to break this 4-game losing streak, the longest they've had all year. Bush can homer, and Homer can bunt.
And he can fly.
Yes, he can. Homer homers, Homer bunts, Homer flies. One-time manager, the pitching coach, Marcel Ashford, saying, Mike Fetters, you got to get on the ball.
And look how he's going full tilt out of that batter's box. These Yankees just continue to impress me with the way that they play baseball, not just because of their talent, but because of their desire and the way they put out.
Our in-game box score for the Yankees, and that'll go as a base hit for Homer Bush. He had a pretty long home run and a very short single. So 9-1 have been the trouble spots for Sparks, and now Mike Fetters. Brocious is 2 for 2 and Bush 2 for 3. And the 9 of the number 1 hitters. Meet big guys, Bernie Williams, Gene Martinez, Chili Davis. Goose egg in the hit department thus far. Here's Derek Jeter, who doubled and scored on Paul O'Neill's double in the 5th inning. Derek is 1 for 3. And the 4th leading batter in the American League at .329. And made a tremendous catch on a little flare by Tim Salmon over the shoulder in short center field. Now, if you've seen a knuckleball for 6 innings, your eyes get big at this?
No, they don't get big. Like I say, knuckleballer is comfortable as far as seeing the ball. It's just you keep swinging and coming up with nothing. Fetters has been in the league a while, and the more you see a guy, the more you're comfortable against him.
This time Fetters makes a play to second base. A nice slide by Bush just to make sure Orsini didn't turn it around, although that was not going to be a tough play to double up Jeter. So the Yankees have runners at the corners, and again, a nice round of applause for Bush as he comes off the field.
And again, you talk about doing your right thing in the makeup. He hits a home run, lays down a perfect bunt, then goes into second base like he means it.
So now runners at the corners for Paul O'Neill. O'Neill RBI double his last time up. An interesting slide into second, and then an interesting slide into home to score on a pass ball.
Great hitting situation for O'Neill. You have runners on first and third. First baseman holding the runner on. Third baseman has to protect in.
Oh, my goodness gracious. The ball gets away from Dishart Sr. And Brochus scores. Mike Fetters either had pine tar on his hands or whatever.
Well, I'll tell you what happens in that play. You see it all the time. They always step and fake. They never have to do anything with the ball. All of a sudden, he steps and fakes in his mind. He's just doing it to show it. He's not thinking he's going to do anything with it, and he's shocked that the runner's not there. He fakes it. Now he looks. He's there. Man, he didn't know what to do. He looks back at third. He throws with his off foot, stepping downhill, throws the ball away, and Brochus scores.
I tell you what, Mike Fetters, he may be able to throw the ball over the plate, but he can't do anything with it when he gets it. I mean, it's an adventure. The best thing to do is either hit it or give it the ball in his hand.
I hate that. That's funny. Look at this. He goes, now watch him step with his other foot and throw downhill with his other foot. Oh, man. That's funny.
Now, official scoring, it's not an error for Fetters, which is hard to believe. They call it a double steal. So Brochus gets a steal of home. Now, I don't know that Scott Brochus is now approaching, Jackie Robinson and maybe being able to steal home plate, or Rod Carew for that matter, but
on the back end of it, he may be.
Man, that's a steal of home. Oh, hey, look, Scotty made a heads-up play, but of steals of home, I think that was one that he stole. I can't believe it's not an error. I don't know why.
Because the runner's in motion.
I know he was, but you know and I know what happened. I know why.
We're gonna
watch this. Here's, he's moving. He's moving. But it wasn't Jackie Robinson or Ty Cobb. Or those that stole home with a little more regularity. Good pitch to O'Neill, and Paul will sit down.
Good sinker from Fetters here. Just starts the ball right around knee high and lets it sink out of the strike zone. O'Neill chasing it.
You're a batting leader in the American League. Bernie Williams. Over in this game thus far. Now we'll try it against a non-knuckleballer. Let's see, Paul's already practiced this. He's near the water cooler. You never know. Now he's up. He just wants the water. He does own that seat down there, doesn't he, right? Bernie fouls it out of play. As you look at the other scores, the Orioles way behind, so they may have hit a little wall for themselves, so after making a great run, a prideful run. The Indians have won it 5-3, huh?
Jimmy Raines with a batting helmet on, going down and asking O'Neill what he's keeping tonight.
Yeah, Homer, what? Let me get out of here.
That's a good rookie for you right there. That's a good rookie for you. Okay, big boss, I'll move on down here for you. What a good-looking young player that Homer Bush is.
Oh, 2 to Bernie with 2 outs. Skies it, and Devin looks for it, but that'll be out of play. We saw those scores before. The Padres leading 2-0 in the bottom of the 9th. So they had Kevin Brown win at Philly yesterday, and Joey Hamilton, I think, tonight. Well, those three division leaders in the National League are neck and neck and neck. Are they not, Ray?
I have it.
Some interesting opening round action. You know, whichever two division leaders go head to head, it's a tough one to call.
I've not seen three National League clubs that evenly matched in a long, long time. I don't know if I've ever seen it.
Well, Fetters bounces back with a couple of strikeouts, but that was an intriguing inning. 6-3 New York. Top of the 8th inning, and the Yankees have a 3-run lead now over the Angels. Chris Berman along with Ray Knight. And our pitching summary brought to you by Sherwin-Williams Paint and Wallpaper Stores. Steve Sparks gave up a 5-run fifth, including a 3-run homer to Homer Bush. He had it really working for a while till the Yankees finally timed him out and went the opposite way. He stands to lose it tonight. And David Wells, well, now working inning number 8, looks up, is marked as 17-2.
Yeah, and David averaging over 7.5 innings per start, so he's right where he normally is. So this is not 3.125 earned run average. He's just giving you his typical David Wells game.
Is he a smarter pitcher now? I mean, you said, geez, he tried the fastball again to Edmonds, but I mean, I know he gets a lot of runs, Ray, but as we work with Erstad, Salmon, and Green, 3, 4, 5, is he, even when you had him a few years ago?
He was a good pitcher then. I mean, he came over and really solidified our staff as we won the division in 95.
Over the head of Chad Curtis, who kind of broke sideways on it, runs all the way to the wall, and Erstad can really fly, but down by 3 runs, he'll settle for the leadoff double rather than try for the triple. Angels are back in business. Let's go to Bill Pito.
Chris, check out Lou Piniella. He's been tossed here already in the 9th inning against the Indians. Kicks the hat once. Comes up to the hat. Lines it up. Kicks the hat again. They love it in the Mariners dugout. Griffey loves it. 3rd try at the hat. Best kick of all. Indians win at 5-3.
Well, I think those kicks sum up the entire season for the Mariners. And I will say this, as we look at Mariano Rivera warming up in the pen. Lou, those were soccer-style kicks. I envisioned Lou as more of a straight-on kicker, didn't you? I mean, I didn't realize
Lou Grozo type.
Mel Stottlemyre is going to walk out to the mound and talk with Wells. Yeah, especially in Cleveland, you got to go straight on. Lou the Toe Piniella. Yeah, Ray, you never booted anything, did you?
I didn't kick my hat. I threw a couple bases.
Well, I know it's you stole bases like Brochu stole home. You picked them up and fired them.
Yeah, but when you get to be losing my age, you pay for it the next day. David Wells wiping. I guess he just called Stottlemyre out there to get a dry jersey so he could wipe his hands on it.
Right.
Certainly not anything. Just asking him how he feels.
Mariano Rivera, who's as good a closer as there is. The Angels have one in certainly Troy Percival. Closed down this first game here this afternoon, won by the Angels 6-4, but it's been 4 games since Torrey and Stottlemyre can say, okay, we got a lead, let's get Rivera up to deal with the 9th inning. Long time for these guys. I'm talking to Don Zimmer before the game. He said, I told these guys a few weeks ago to enjoy all this. I mean, you're not going to win. We're not going to win. I'd go home some nights, and Zim said, how did we win today? He says, I saw it. I sat on the bench for 9 innings, but how did we do it today? Zim says, you know, it's like everyone in the stands here and the writers are. Zim came into the building today and said, what's wrong with this team? Right? Like you said, if he was asked, well, you guys all right? And well, he did immediately after asking, what do you like in football this year? I always see Zim late August, and we always, just like I go to him for the Kentucky Derby, he comes to me before football season. I give him new players and dark horse teams to look out for. He likes taking those long shots in the pool. The teams making playoffs. Wells working the Salmon, 1-0.
Zim celebrating his 50th year in the game. Started as a player in 1949.
Baseball right there. Talk to him for hours. Salmon, very patient, lays off, 2-0. Wells and the Yankees, that's what Stottlemyre went out there for. You know, it's a 3-run lead. The crowd is awfully quiet. The Angels have come back on them in these 3 games that they've won, and it's the heart of their order, so they need to be real careful. Up the middle by Salmon. Erstad can run, and he will be waved home easily, and it's 6-4. Now that play by Fetters really stands out.
Yeah, it does. It always seems to. You start giving up runs late in the game, especially relievers out of the bullpen, it's always going to hurt you. But Wells now.
Well, here's Joe Torre out, which means that'll be it. And since he hasn't worked for a while, looks like Mariano Rivera, like the old days, it looks like they're going to bring in the closer for 2 innings, Ray.
Well, you have to do that when you haven't thrown.
Fans on their feet for one of their heroes, David Wells.
In the studio, Darren Lewis beat the Athletics last night with a home run in the 7th. Tonight, game tied in the 8th. Comes through with a 2-run single. It's now 7-4 as they add another in the 9th.
All right, Billy, thank you. The Red Sox doing it at Fenway, and now I erred. Rivera worked yesterday, but hasn't been many close-down situations for him the last few games, and so, like the old days, the stopper comes in the 8th inning, Ray. You don't see it that much anymore.
Well, he hasn't had a lot of work. You mentioned there are 4 games that they've lost, and he is not going to be in those games that you're trailing, and he has not thrown the 50 innings this year. That's not a big workload for a closer this time of the year. You see his great stuff, under a 2 earned run average, fastball 95 miles an hour, tight slider, and just another great young arm along with Nin and Hoffman over in the National League.
Todd Green, 0 for 3 against Wells, youngster of whom much is expected, but was hurt, missed most of this season. Will be your catcher here one day, but really can only play a little left. Occasionally DH, although in Salmon's situation, that's what he's playing, so no room there, which is part of the reason why Cecil Fielder is no longer a member of the Angels. Third, when Salmon had the DH, and Erstad, with his hamstring problems, had to play first as opposed to anywhere in the outfield. It made Cecil's days numbered here. 1-1 pitch to Green. He swings through that one, 1-2. Salmon at first base, having driven in Erstad with the 4th Angel run. They trail at 6-4. Dangerous Garrett Anderson is on deck. Foul back.
Since last Tuesday when he blew a save in Milwaukee, Rivera only 2.2 innings in a week. 1 inning yesterday, 1.2 innings Saturday in Texas in his last save, so that shows you right there in a situation where if you're winning, he'd have probably had 4 plus 5 innings of work maybe.
Skied. Does Posada have room? No. The Angels and the Rangers, if you're trying to figure out who will come out of the West as the champs, the Angels right now are a 5-game road trip here to New York, 3 at Boston, 2 at Cleveland. Hence, of their 17 remaining road games, you know, a lot of the games, they have a tougher schedule as far as the strength of their opponents.
Well, they do. And you look there at the plus 500 club, 14 teams that they have to play, and you mentioned the Red Sox in Cleveland.
However, they've come into New York, Ray, and they've won the first 3 games of this set. They do play each other 5 times over the last couple of weeks. 2 of those games are in Texas. 1 is a Wednesday night, so I assume we will see one of them, you and I. And then there's 3 games in Anaheim on the final Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the season, and probably that'll be our late game that week. Right now, the 4-game lead is because they won the first game. Well, this is driven pretty well to right center field. Back a long way goes Bernie Williams. Back. It's off the wall. Salmon had to hold, and he'll just get to third base and gimp in. but Todd Green just pummeled that pitch from Rivera, and now the potential tying runs are in scoring position. Reggie Williams, who homered this afternoon, will be the pinch runner for Green, who just drilled it.
Yeah, fastball up, out over the plate. Barely stays in the ballpark, hitting the bottom of the wall. Salmon with the bad ankle, nobody out. Goes to second base, which he's supposed to do. Ends up second, third, no one out. Tying run on second base.
So 3 straight hits here by the Never Say Die Angels have plated 1 run. We've got runners at scoring position, and a little single by Garrett Anderson will tie the game at 6. Chopper up the middle. Nice play by Jeter to Tino Martinez. Salmon scores. It's a 6-5 game. That almost got through, and Williams certainly would have scored.
Derek Jeter, great range. Watch the first step quickness here. Ground ball up the middle. First step quickness allows him to get to the ball, rights himself, gets his feet underneath him, makes a good throw.
Joe says, yeah, I mean, his middle relief with Nelson out maybe for the rest of the year, and Darren Holmes sideline. Stanton struggling, although he pitched a good close-up for this afternoon. Now he's got his best reliever, Rivera, and he says, why do I have to see this now? The infield is in. The run, by the way, charged to David Wells. That'll close his book with 5. And Troy Glaus just looking for a fly ball. Just looking for a fly ball, but Rivera is quickly ahead, 0-2. So here's an example of the youngster. You know, a veteran maybe can measure the pitch a little more just to hit a fly ball.
Well, infielders, shortstop and second baseman on the grass.
Big strikeout for Rivera. He just went right after the youngster and overmatched him on that at-bat.
And it's very tough for a young player in that situation. A tough deal for Troy Glaus to break in. Just a fastball, 93, 94 mile an hour, right down the middle of the plate. Glaus just swinging too big, and that's something that he'll learn, even though he choked up a little bit on the bat. Try to make a little bit of contact, but Rivera is sneaky fast. He throws 93. There are people that throw 96, 97, but he hides the ball so well, it looks like it's about 99.
Well, Terry Collins will go the left-handed pinch hitter, the young outfielder Orlando Palmeiro, to bat for the catcher Phil Nevin, which means Walback will go in to catch in the 9th inning, or rather the bottom of the 8th inning. Palmeiro has done an excellent job in spot roll, and then turn into more than spot roll with all the injuries they've had here.
Well, he seems to see the ball very well. He gets good balls to hit. Line drive type hitter, a lot like Greg Gross was. Joe Orsulak, guy that doesn't swing too big. Brett Butler.
Ooh, they gave him green light on 2-0. He was behind it. I thought he might just sit and wait.
Doesn't surprise me, simply because of time runs on third base. You can't get in a better hitting situation. Terry Collins trusts this young player's ability. He's proven that he gets a good ball to hit.
Now Rivera comes back and evens the count at 2-2. Fans were pretty quiet a couple of batters ago. That has changed. Flare to center field, but Bernie Williams draws a beat on it. And the potential tying run is stranded at third. The Angels 1 of 11. The runners in scoring position. But they do pick up a big 2. And we've got ourselves a 1-run game. Don't go away.
Next on ESPN, Raul Mondesi and the Dodgers against the Expos. They've lost 6 in a row. That's after you guys are done in the Bronx.
All right, Billy, thank you. A 6-5 game here in the bottom of the 8th inning. The Yankees lead the Angels by just 1. Reggie Williams, pitch ran, stays in the game, and goes into left field for Todd Green, and Matt Walback as the new catcher after Nevin was pinch hit for by Orlando Palmeiro. So now you're up to speed. Tito Martinez, Chili Davis, and Chad Curtis will be your batters here in the bottom of the 8th. I don't want to waste an unbelievable amount of research by our ace researcher Dave Pinto back at home. The chopper by Tino. And it's handled by Darren Erstad. Homer Bush's homer, it was his first of his career. I worry about Dave when he spends time looking up things like this, Ray. We love Dave, of course. There are 10 players in the history of Major League Baseball who have the name Homer. 4 of them hit homers in their career, so some of them were pitchers, obviously. Homer Suma, S-U-M-A, not Kama Sutra, but Homer Suma is the all-time leader of the homer players at 18, which means Homer Bush is just 17 behind. Now, I didn't commission this bit of research, but he went to the problem to call it into us. We feel our obligation to give it to you.
And I
Back
think,
to the game.
yes.
Thanks, Dave. Tim Raines batting for Chili Davis. Ground ball to Norberto Martin over to Erstad, and quickly 2 up, 2 down. A much less eventful inning thus far for Mike Fetters. Again, a reminder that chasing history, the quest toward Roger Maris's record. Big Mac, Sammy, Junior, Greg Vaughn. A 5-part series begins on SportsCenter this Monday night on the 6:30 edition. So you want to see that. Chad Curtis winning the game defensively for Strawberry a couple of innings ago. His first at bat. Way outside and past catcher Matt Wallback. Ball 1. A week ago at this time, Ray, I didn't think McGuire and Sosa would get it done. You think they will now? You don't have to commit.
No, one of them will. I don't know that both of them will, but I think if you look at their record, I don't think McGuire has ever gone 30 games without hitting 10 home runs.
Probably not. Not in recent time.
No. And I was looking at that thing today in the newspaper of the people that have hit 50 home runs, and there were 12 of them, and each of them hit at least 9 in the month of September. So far, McGuire, Sammy hit it 1 today. And that was a list of everyone that had hit over 50 home runs, including Greenberg and George Foster, and 9 was the smallest total.
9 was the smallest?
And Babe hit 17.
Yeah, he did. He hit 60. That'll be great down the stretch. Just got under it a little bit, did Chad Curtis. Reggie Williams squeezes it. 3 up, 3 down. And the second man up here in the 9th inning is the man that's gone deep twice already, Jim Edmonds, in a 1-run game. For sure on the play by now which the Yankees lead. It happened when Mike Fetters came in the game in the 7th inning. Scott Brocious was on third base. And on the fake, and then, oh my goodness, there's a guy over here running to second base. The throw was, I'm not sure what it was. By the way, they've just changed it. The bad news for Scott Brocious is he doesn't get a steal at home. The good news is the run stands. It's an E1, error to Fetters. And the run before that the Yankees got was on the pass ball that O'Neill slid around to Sparks. So as Malibu Marty Aronoff points out here, with DeSarcini leading off the 9th, battery errors. The reason the Yankees scored their last 2 runs, and that would never happen with the Energizer Bunny, a battery error, would it? Angels have come from behind to win the first 3 games of this 5-game series. Can they do it again here in the 9th?
Look at this
he doesn't
guy.
think so. Ooh, just missed it, Rivera. The count is 1-2 to DeSarcini. DeSarcini, Edmonds, and Norberto Martin with Erstad due up 4th. He's gone deep twice, says Jim Edmonds. He's on deck. So don't go away.
And you mentioned DeSarcina hitting ninth, and a lot of people wonder why Edmonds hits first. He hit third most of the year with Erstad out. But in essence, he's really a three-hole hitter with DeSarcina hitting ninth, or at least a two-hole hitter. Going to have the opportunity to drive in a lot of runs, as he has. Probably end up with 85 RBIs this season. Then you can put a guy with some pop in that leadoff hole when you have a man that can get on the base, or you consistently in a 9-hole.
Well, he's getting closer and closer to the foul, but let's go quickly to Billy Pito.
Mark McGwire draws closer. 0 for 3 coming up in the 8th inning against Justin Spire with a man on, and there it goes. Way back in center. 2-run shot, number 54 on the year for Big Mac. 3-0 Cards in the bottom of the 8th.
That's why I asked you when I did, Ray.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I said sure he is.
DeSarcina, fly ball to right field, squeezed by Paul O'Neill. There's one out. Big Mac with Pitway. Anything you can do, I can do better. Sosa in the afternoon, McGwire at night. 52 and 54. I think that game, as Jim Edmonds comes up with 2 homers tonight, can he hit number 3? I think that game they played against each other a week ago tonight, during the afternoon on a Wednesday, that was the one that kind of energized McGwire. I mean, he saw Sosa having so much fun. He relaxed, and here we go. He's been off to the races ever since. But now back to the matter at hand. Jim Edmonds trying to time out Mariano Rivera the way he timed out David Wells. 7 for 12 in the series is Edmonds.
Well, he's a big-time money player. A lot of offers to trade Edmonds the last 2 years. There's some talk about moving Erstad to center field, but you don't want to move this guy. He's such a quality player, offensively, defensively. I think he's probably been on more ESPN highlights than anybody defensively in the outfield. We saw him almost running through the wall last week.
Swings through that one. While we're talking McGwire just a minute, before anybody forgets, the National League record for home runs is 56 by Hank Wilson. The second best ever in the National League is 54 by Kleiner, so he's already number 2 in National League history, so keep that in mind as well. Joe Torre not concerned with that right now, neither is Terry Collins. Fans want a K. Fouled off the paraphernalia.
Jim Edmonds, a very classic hitter, positions himself very well in the batter's box, but with 2 strikes, he hardly strides. Sometimes he doesn't even stride. He widens out his stance, as you see there, and then as the ball approaches, he just puts his foot right back down.
Foul tip into the glove of Posada, and Edmonds is gone on some high cheese.
Yeah, that's some serious gas, and you got to set up really early to be able to get to this fastball, up and away, and there's a little difference between 4 or 5 miles an hour on the fastball. 94-mile-an-hour fastball as opposed to David Wells' 89. Edmonds went deep twice, and that shows you what certain pitchers can do. Rivera saw Edmonds hit those 2 home runs up, but it didn't scare him because he knows he has enough juice to get by with it.
Outside to Norberto Martina, trying to squeeze everything in here in the 9th inning. McGwire going deep. I just want to say I agree with our compatriot Joe Morgan. He talked about it on Sunday night. The quote issue of whatever over-the-counter legal additive that Mark McGwire is taking, it's non-issue in my mind. I agree with what Joe said. Hopper up the middle, base hit. The tying run is on. The fleet-footed Norberto Martin has come through with his 3rd base hit of the night. '54, 52, and 44. We're in August still, folks.
Well, that's a lot of bombs. And Mark McGwire said that he wouldn't get excited till he hit 50.
He's excited now. He's
now
excited.
He has to be a little
America.
excited.
Tying runners at first. Darren Erstad doubled his last time up. He's 1 for 4. The Yankees have lost 4 in a row, but are 1 out away from ending their longest losing streak of the season. The Angels have taken 6 out of 9 games from the Yankees this year, including the first 3 of this 5-game set. Game 5 of which is tomorrow night.
Well, very deep. Paul O'Neill out there with a runner on first base, 2 outs. Not going to allow the ball to get over his head and allow that run to score.
Foul back by Erstad. 0-2, 1 strike away. If Rivera does it, he'll get saved 34, and David Wells would move to 17-2.
And a fretting Mike Fettis.
A fretting Fettis. Very good, Ray. You don't mean Freddie Fender.
No.
A fretting Fettis. The All-Stars, Erstad digs in.
Whoa.
Good eye, outside corner, just
A
missed.
little outside. Oh, man. Look at this pitch right here. Sets up right here. Look at beside his glove. Right there, little bit of movement away. Little outside. Good call.
Look at him move it, too. Hey, it was
You
right on
see
the
a
corner.
lot of guys get rung up for that pitch.
Chopper, that's foul. We'll do it again. Remember, Martin can fly. If it's even close to the gap, depending on how the outfielders play it, and it's a very good outfield, certainly with Gold Glover Williams in center and O'Neill with a big arm in right. But depending on how they play it, Martin may get sent around.
Well, I doubt if he's going to be able to. O'Neill almost on the warning track. And the other 2 outfielders very deep. It's going to be hard to get a ball in the gap out there without one of the outfielders being right on it.
High, 2-2.
What's going to be real interesting right here is the pitch that Mariano wants to make. You don't want to go to 3-2 and start that runner, because then, oh, you know what, a break loose, because he will score on any ball that's in the gap.
Whoa. Now, I guess it wasn't a whoa. Erstad twirled in the box. You remember, he's been injured this year. It was a hamstring problem.
Yeah, and those type things right there are what causes hamstring problems. When you have to jerk your leg, the ball's hit hard there. See that jerk right there? I don't know which leg it was, but those are things that cause you to pull muscles, is that quick jerk on something.
Especially when you foul one right off your shin. That doesn't, that causes a real quick jerk.
And it was his left hamstring. But
2-2 pitch again. Good job by Erstad. That was a borderline strike 3 or not. He just fought it off to stay alive.
well, that's what you're talking about, and that's a Terry Collins type player. You see a man just go up there battling. Mariano's stepped it up. That ball's 4 inches, 5 inches outside. Mariano's throwing 95 miles an hour now. Stepped it up a little bit after a couple of 89, 90 mile an hour fastballs. But that's what type of battler Jim Edmonds you see there, 2 home runs a night. And Erstad are.
Staying alive is Erstad at the plate.
Battling, Boomer. That's just battling. And I think that if you go back to our open, the reason the Angels are where they are is because they have 4 or 5 players just going to battle you tooth and nail all night long, all season long.
9th pitch on the way to Erstad. Salmon wants a crack at it himself. Martin, the runner at first. Chopper, foul ball. Tino turned around to Terry Kraft at first, but it looked foul from this angle, and I don't see anybody really arguing with it. So again, a foul ball by Erstad keeps it alive.
Well, remember, it's not where the fielder is, it's where the ball
That
is.
was foul.
No question it was foul.
Pitch 10. Martin can run at first base. Ball 3. Full count. So not only can Martin run, he will run.
He will, and
Now, this changes the plot. It may just be a deep single that they may send him on. We'll see. We'll worry about that when Erstad puts it into play, if he does. Here he goes, and that's hit down the line and right. Oh, this could be beautiful. O'Neill with a big arm. Martinez being weighted home. The throw. Martinez throwing the plate. Save. The Angels have tied it. Oh, you could see this play develop all the way. Once it went to 3-2, it changed the entire complexion, and Erstad put it exactly where you had to.
well, there's no way to hit the ball anywhere between the gap, the ball down the line. Larry Bohr all the way down the line here. I want you to watch the third base coach into his job. Great at bat by Erstad. 11 pitches, drilling the ball. Great job by O'Neill, hitting the cutoff man perfectly. Perfect throw home right there, safe. Great job all the way around. Nothing you can do. But watch Larry Bohr get down the line. Martin flying. Larry Bohr right there with him, safe. He knew it.
Larry made the call, then Colbert made the call. I don't care who you're rooting for. That is exciting baseball. What an at-bat by Darren Erstad. 11 pitches.
Larry Bohr.
Saved! Then he gets the call. Look at it with the kick and everything. That was a kick equal to Pinellas.
Hey, man, you're talking about a competitor.
So and there goes Erstad, who can run, and he's stolen second base. These Anaheim Angels have come in here to Yankee Stadium, and we don't know if they're going to win yet tonight, but they've come from behind in all 4 games.
Well, and another thing, too, Rivera 2 innings tonight, or pushing 2 innings. He's going to be spent for a couple of days. Joe Torre making that decision, and now you have a tie ball game and a spent bullpen.
Count is 0-2 to Salmon. And the Angels have trailed. After 8, they've won just once. When the Yankees have led after 8, they've lost just once.
You can throw all those things out the window when it gets this time of year, too, Chris. You're going to see so many things turn around because of the sheer competition and what's at stake.
43 pitches for Rivera in these 2 innings.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
There's a number you
There's
need.
a number you.
Down the line. Foul.
This is the first time I've seen the Angels in person this year, and I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed with the way that they're going about their business. Rod Carew, the hitting coach, Larry Bohr there, the infield coach, just a great coaching staff there for Terry Collins. Laughing. It doesn't look like a young team that's in the midst of a pennant race, supposedly suffering the slings and arrows of stress and outrageous fortune.
I just want to let that breathe. It was like opening a bottle of fine wine. Count is 1-2 to Salmon. And he lays off. Boy, the eye, and then knowing when to. Look, how about Erstad a couple of times? No way he was going to try and get a hit. He was just fouling it off. And then worked it to 3-2. Were that not 3-2, that run doesn't even happen. Not yet. Chopper to Cheater. Over to Martinez. But the Anaheim Angels have battled back with 2 in the 8th, 2 in the 7th, 2 in the 8th, 1 in the 9th. We are tied at 6. Welcome back to Yankee Stadium, where we have ourselves a tie ball game in the bottom of the 9th inning. Chris Berman along with Ray Knight. And I know the Yankees are the best record in baseball, may end up with the best record ever in baseball. But these Anaheim Angels have come in here and made a major statement. That was one of the best at-bats of the year by Erstad.
It really have. I got excited about that. And what these Anaheim Angels have done is shown this Yankee ball club that they are not intimidated by them. Coming into their home ballpark, playing them great baseball, coming back 4 times from deficit to win 3 and now tie this ball game up.
You learned a lot about Darren Erstad right there. And Rivera, usually he's automatic. But he came in, remember, in the Todd Green, slugged a double right away. That was the first batter he faced in the 8th inning. Which then moved runners around. So the Angels measured Rivera a little bit, even though he kind of breezed. Once he got Edmonds, the fans thought it was over. But as you look at Rivera, hoping that the Yankees now can come through and win it for him in the bottom of the 9th inning. David Wells will not go 17-2. You know that much. He'll remain at 16-2. And watch tomorrow as he hopes David Cone can win his 19th game against Chuck Finley, who won 10. His 10th his last time out. Posada, Brocious, and Homer Bush. So Mike Fetters, a fretting Fetters, as you said, now is working inning number 3.
Well, that's a lot for him. Middle relievers can give you 2, one time maybe around the order, 3 innings.
Going out to L.A. next. Gary Thorne, Joe Morgan, the Dodgers hosting the Les Expos. And here's Mike Fetters, who immediately walks the first man he faces in Jorge Posada. What a great story this is. Trevor Wilson. That's right. The hum-baby Roger Craig left-hander with the Giants way back when, the late 80s, early 90s. Battled back from serious arm injuries, a couple of them, battled his way through the minors. Back in the major leagues. He's the lefty in the pen as Terry Collins goes out to talk to Fetters.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to make a move with a right-handed hitter up here. He's going to check with Fetters, kind of get everything in order here, talk about the hit and run, possibility of bunt, who's covering what. But that Trevor Wilson story is amazing. He came to me in spring training in '96, my first year managing. We needed left-handed pitching badly, and he went out there about 4 or 5 times. I actually was going to try to make him my 5th starter, but his arm was shot. And he came to me one day and said, Skip, I'm just not, as we see Hasegawa out there in the bullpen. Mike Fetters out.
Well, you would imagine that it's Hasegawa coming in against the righty, and it is. Hasegawa, who has been the most important setup guy to Percival this year for the Angels, comes in a 6-6 game. Back at Yankee Stadium, Angels 6, Yankees 6, with the Yankees with their leadoff man on board, Jorge Posada. Scott Brocious coming up as Terry Collins made the move. And as we've hammered to you all night, the Angels continue to have the Yankees number coming from behind, scoring 5 runs in the last 3 innings. Boy, the 7th inning for them. They had a 5-run 7th on Monday, a 4-run 7th, a 2-run 7th here against Joe Torre's Yankees. And while you were away, you missed one of the great moments in Yankee Stadium history when Bob Shepard, perhaps the best voice ever, PA system, announced the Angel reliever Shigetoshi Hasegawa, number 21, Hasegawa.
He has good stuff. You see right there, 71 hits and 82 innings pitched, 61 strikeouts, really good sinker, fastball, a lot of sliders, real true slider, flat, breaks sharply, changeup. Fills his position extremely well, and that's one of the reasons I think Terry Collins made this move. Fetters, as we've seen, not very adroit at filling his position.
Scott Brocious will be squaring to bunt. Glauson on the grass at third, and Hasegawa looks Posada back to first. Terry Collins told me before the game, he by far and away has been the best setup man to the All-Star Troy Percival. 2 for 2 and a walk. Scotty has scored 2 runs tonight. Erstad pounces on it. Over to Martine. So Brocious. But he continues to impress from the number 9 hole as this Arcenia does for the Angels. Bunts the winning run to second base. 1 out.
Great job, too. Gets the bat barrel out, has the ball head above the ball, then just reaches out and catches it. Posada gets to second base easily. Joe Torre not making a decision, choosing not to make a decision to pinch run there with Girardi on the bench, but that's because he's already used Curtis and Strawberry and Raines and Davis. You start to run out of people when you make those defensive changes.
What? It's set up perfectly for the man that hit his first major league home run, a late addition to the lineup. A late scratch was Knobloch. Homer Bush led off. He's hit a 3-run homer. Now he can win the game with a base hit here in the ninth.
Yeah, I tell you, he's going to have a tough time getting a base hit through the gaps. That means between third and short, up the middle, between second and first, because the outfield is so shallow. Larry Boehm signal move the outfield in, and they will have a play at the plate on any ball that's hit sharply.
Little chopper, Glaus. It's a tough play, and he throws it across to Erstad, but the winning run is just 90 feet away. Glaus was pretty smooth on that play, right?
That's a tough play. Going toward the line, you have to circle the ball a little bit, field it in one hand, make a couple of steps and make the throw perfectly. With the game on the line, that's a great play by a young player that there's been a lot of great things said about defensively.
Now let's set this up. Derek Jeter was at the plate with bases loaded last night, a 1-run game. Percival got him. Jeter was at the plate this afternoon against Percival in a 2-run game in the bottom of the ninth. Percival got him. This time Jeter faces Hasegawa. He has a chance to deliver a win for the Yankees. Ball low.
Glaus learning quickly at third base. He's trying to show bunt and then moving back as the ball is delivered.
Inside and low, 2-0. Although you get no advantage by pitching around Jeter and getting to O'Neill and then to Bernie Williams, it doesn't really matter. I mean, as far as a walk is concerned.
He's got 3 hitters to get here, Chris. That's a great point. You go ahead and try to make a pitch on a hitter. If you don't get him, you let him go to first. It doesn't make any difference about that hitter. And when you get ahead of a guy, you try to pitch him. This doesn't matter. The runner on third base, certainly, like you say, O'Neill and Williams are tough customers. But as a pitcher, you've got 2 bases open. If you make your pitch, then you go ahead and try to make another pitch. If you don't worry about it.
Setting up outside was Walbeck. He got a strike on the outside corner. Good pitch. But again, you're right. I mean, if he misses it, he actually set up almost outside of the black. I watched where he set.
Well, what you're going to see here, Joe Torre's not going to give him the swing, the hit sign 3-0 with all this thunder behind him. So this is going to be the pitch, and he's going to be the payoff and probably going to throw it away.
Again, set up outside. Again, he got the corner.
Yeah,
he did. 2 pitches right to that spot, right?
Well, and Jeter showing the patience of the Yankee hitters. He starts this ball out off the plate, runs back. That's back door. Pretty good pitch. That ball got a lot of plate, but Jeter looking middle in. He likes that ball middle in to drive it. Ball just out of his sight zone, and lets it go.
Drives it past the diving Erstad. Posada scores. The Yankees win. Jeter up in the bottom of the ninth. The last 3 games against the Angels, sooner or later, he was going to come through. He's too good. Erstad almost had it, but the valiant Angels, who battled back to tie it at 6, fall for the first time in this 5-game series with the wrap-up game tomorrow night. The Angels and the Yankees end up splitting the day-night doubleheader. Yankees win 7-6 this evening. For Ray Knight and all of us in the early crew at Wednesday Night Baseball, thanks for watching this game between division leaders. The Expos and Dodgers are coming up in a moment for the presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader of sports. I'm Chris Berman. So long from New York. Now on to Gary Thorne and Joe Morton.